Lock the machine for the purpose of registering attendance. Have all members recorded their attendance? Clerk will lock the machine, please. There are 36 members present. There is a quorum. Senator Goodwin, we are in recess. Senator Goodwin moves that we adjourn last Tuesday's session. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Last Tuesday's session is adjourned. Now the clerk will unlock the machine, please. If all members have recorded their attendance, the clerk will lock the machine. There are 36 members present. There is a quorum. I call on Father Philip Zamarias of the Assumption Greek Orthodox Church in Pawtucket for the purpose of the invocation. Father Zamarias.
O Lord Almighty, we raise our heart, mind, and soul to you in prayer as we commemorate the Annunciation of the Virgin Mary, along with the observance of the 200th anniversary of the War of Independence for the nation of Greece in the modern era, which has become in our current days a celebration of Greek and American democracy. We adore you as our Creator on this day as you entered the womb of your blessed Mother, setting in motion the beginning of our salvation and our freedom from enslavement to sin. We offer thanksgiving prayers as well for the regeneration and liberation of the nation of Greece from its political enslavement, which reestablished democratic principles in the motherland of democracy. In addition, we offer special prayers for those American Philhellenes who contributed to this struggle for independence according to our common values of democracy. Show us all to be worthy of this freedom, strengthen us in safeguarding it, and preserve us in peace and harmony. Furthermore, we pray today for the elected officials of the state of Rhode Island and Providence plantations and the members of this chamber. Protect, guide, and guard each of them and their families. Bless them with good health and sound minds, that they may lead us in the right direction as they serve and minister to its citizens. For you are the source of life, our protector and Savior, and to you we ascribe glory, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Father Zamarias. Senator Papakis.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
first order of business is the approval of the previous day's journal. That's the Journal of March 9th. The clerk will please read.
State of Rhode Island, Journal of the Senate.
Senator
President.
Raptakis.
Mr. President, I move that the further reading of the journal be dispensed with and the journal be accepted as printed.
Senator Raptakis moves that further reading of the journal be dispensed with and that the journal be accepted as printed without objection. So ordered. Next order of business is the introduction of guests. Are there any guests present? Senator Raptakis, do you have guests here?
Mr. President, we have the senators are going to be reading introducing the guests.
Okay. Senator Lawson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to introduce in absentia my good friend and constituent, Charles Chonis. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm pleased to introduce Father Zamarias of the Assumption Greek Orthodox Church in Pawtucket, as well as in absentia, Mr. George Fusekis, the Parish Council President, Greek Language School Principal Panayota Vastis, and teachers Stravula Papa Vasiliou and Sophia Avgustakis, and a HEPA President, John Apostolakis. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Coleman.
Mr. President, I'd like to introduce from the Annunciation Greek Orthodox Church in Cranston, in absentia, Father Andrew George and Father Nick Lanzarakis, Theophanis Makos, the Parish Council President, and the Greek language teachers, Kula Rogas and Iona Andriopoulos. Also, the President Lakis Andriotis. Welcome.
Senator Hoyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would also like to recognize my constituents in absentia from the St. Spiridion Greek Orthodox Church in Newport, Father Aaron Walker, our Greek language school teachers, Alani Ananautapoulou and Zamara Elipoulou, Parish Council President Gia Harrigan, Captain Spiridion Pilatos of the Hellenic Navy, and the American Hellenic Educational Progressive Association President, Dr. Basil Panatsapoulou. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Hoyer.
Mr. President, I also have guests to introduce. We have Major Nicholas Stratikis from the Ministry of National Defense of the Hellenic Republic. Major. And also who will be speaking shortly is the Vice Consul General of the Hellenic Republic, Boston, New England, Maria Kokkosi.
Thank you, Senator Raptakis. Right now, we're going to have the Vice Consul of Greece in Boston, Maria Kokkosi, will address us.
Senator Raptakis, thank you for your kind introduction. Father Philip Zamarias, Honorable President Dominic Ruggiero, Honorable Minority Leader Denise Algier, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to say 2 words in Greek and I will follow in English. Καλησπέρα σας. Καταρχήν θα ήθελα να ευχαριστήσω θερμά τον γερουσιαστή κύριο Ραπτάκη για όλη του την προσπάθεια προκειμένου να γιορτάσουμε τα 200 χρόνια από την 25η Μαρτίου. Με αφορμή την επέτειο εορτασμού των 200 χρόνων από την έναρξη της Επανάστασης, η οποία οδήγησε στην ίδρυση του νέου ελληνικού κράτους, θα ήθελα να σας ευχαριστήσω για την πίστη, την αφοσίωσή σας στις παραδόσεις και να ευχηθώ δύναμη και χρόνια πολλά σε όλους στην Ελλάδα και στους Έλληνες μέσα και έξω από τα σύνορα της χώρας. First of all, I would like to convey the greetings of the Consul General, Mr. Stratos Ευθυμίου. I want to personally thank the members of the Rhode Island State Senate for your efforts in passing yearly a resolution honoring my country's declaration of independence and the feast of the Annunciation, especially this year, the 200th anniversary. I'm honored to have the opportunity to address you on behalf of the Greek government and the Greek people. The Greek people offer our deepest appreciation for the support and friendship that you have always presented to the Hellenic communities. The bond between our people is deep, and this ceremony today is a testament to the long-lasting relationship that we have cultivated. I'm here to pay tribute to an important moment in our nation's history. In reflecting on Greek Revolution in 1821, I thought back to a moment 2.5 centuries ago where another group of people sought to take their own independence. 2.5 centuries ago, there was a geopolitical shuffle between Europe and what was then known as the 13 colonies. The colonies undertook what was an ambitious experiment for their own independence, an experiment that would take the form of the American Revolution and that would result in the foundation of the United States that we have today. Similar to the American Revolution of 1776, the French Revolution occurred in 1789 and the Greek one in 1821. Although in different geographies, these revolutions had much in common in terms of ideas and philosophies that underpinned them. Just as the Americans would seek their independence in the new territories of the 13 colonies, so would the French and the Greeks in 1821. The revolutions were fueled by inspirations of free will and free thought. The dream of being a people that was not held down by any external forces. All three revolutions toppled the regimes of tyranny with the hopes of birthing modern democratic nations. To prepare for this speech, I drew some inspiration from our shared histories of the American and Greek peoples. I would like to draw an analogy to demonstrate the importance of this day to both Greeks and Americans. Just as the American Revolution influenced Western Europe, so did the Greek Revolution influence the rest of Eastern Europe. 200 years ago, Greece rose up against the oppression of the Ottomans to reinstate one of the world's preeminent nations. In doing so, they safeguarded not only their ancient heritage, but also the legacy of Western principles, those principles that have united our two nations for 200 years. Similar to the impact of the American Revolution, the Greek Revolution inspired the Greek and not Greek alike. Volunteers came from every part of Greece but also from every part of the globe, including the United States. Some of the most famous and dedicated soldiers of the Greek Revolution for independence came from right here in New England. These revolutionaries gave their lives to protect not only their homeland, but also the land where Western civilization was conceived and where our common democratic values were in need of defense. Today, we have a responsibility to pay tribute to those men and women who sacrificed for the causes of liberty and freedom for all. It was their sacrifice which guaranteed the safety of the Hellenic Republic and secured its place among the world's nations. It is the common cause for which our forebears fought and died that we must continue to dedicate ourselves. The same principles which guided the Greek Revolution inspired the American Revolution against the old British Empire and brought up great Americans to lead a young nation to its independence. We even saw the great senator and statesman from Massachusetts, Daniel Webster, in his speech arguing for American support of the Greek Revolution state on the floor of the Senate. I quote, "What is the soul, the informing spirit of our institutions, of our entire system of government, but public opinion? Let us direct the force, the vast moral force of this engine to the end to others." End quote. The Greek and American people have been a moral force for good in this world. At this point in history, we are called upon once again to put our values above all other considerations. The pandemic crisis has brought many vital issues to the surface, but above all, this is an urgent humanitarian crisis. This is a situation that every country has a responsibility to deal with, but it has been made highly political and turned into an issue that promotes division. By raising fences and closing borders, by fostering divisions among the Western community, and by foregoing our commitments to one another, we are threatening to demolish the great institutions and communities that we should all be proud of. Our strength comes from our unity, and our weakness is division, something every Greek European and every American is deeply aware of. Our values of freedom and justice propelled the Greeks to fight for independence from the Ottoman Empire 200 years ago. Freedom from a foreign ruler and ultimately freedom for each individual compelled Americans to fight and support the Greek cause. By letting xenophobia, racism, and hatred prevail in a union founded on the principles of tolerance and respect for human rights and religious freedom, we are failing to respect our inheritance. Our responsibility is not only to ourselves, but also to our forebears, whom we pay tribute to today for their sacrifices, to whom we owe our inherited nations and our well-being. And this is a debt that cannot be repaid simply through words and remembrance. It also requires our deeds and actions. The motto of the Greek Revolution was freedom or death, elευθερία ή θάνατος, ζήτω η Ελλάς. Thank you for your undivided attention.
Thank you very much, Madam Counsel. That brings us to new business. First item on our agenda is by Senator Leonidas P. Raptakis, Senate Resolution celebrating March 25, 2021 as the 200th anniversary of Greek Independence Day and celebrating democracy in Greece and the United States. Senator Raptakis.
Mr. President, may we have that read, please?
Senator Raptakis requests that the resolution be read. The clerk will please do so.
Senate Resolution celebrating March 25th, 2021 as the 200th anniversary of Greek Independence Day and celebrating democracy in Greece and the United States. Whereas on March 25th, 1821, the feast day of the Annunciation, the Greek nation reclaimed its ancient heritage as the cradle of democracy by overthrowing the yoke of oppression which had enslaved its people since the fall of Constantinople in 1453. Conquered by the Ottoman Turks in the 15th century, Greece waged a successful war of independence, 1821 to 1829, and reinstituted a democratic form of government. And whereas the people of the United States generously offered humanitarian assistance to the Greek people during their struggle for independence, and whereas the price for the people of Greece to hold on to their common values in their region was high, as hundreds of thousands of civilians were killed in Greece during World War II. And whereas Greece is one of the only 3 nations in the world, beyond the former British Empire, that has been allied with the United States in every major international conflict over the last 100 years. And whereas Greece, located in a region where Christianity meets Islam and Judaism, maintains excellent relations with Muslim nations and Israel and demonstrates religious tolerance. And whereas the ancient Macedonians were Hellenes and the former province of Greece, Macedonia, and the Hellenic descendants. And whereas Greece and the United States are at the forefront of the effort for freedom, democracy, peace, stability, and human rights. And whereas many Philhellenes participated and fought in the Greek War of Independence, one such individual was George Wilson from Providence, Rhode Island, who served as a gunman in the Greek fleet, most notably in the battle against the Turkish Navy in Naphthakos Bay, Greece. And whereas the United States Secretary of State Mike Pompeo visited Greece on October 4th, 2019, where he met with Greek leaders and together they signed the Mutual Defense Cooperation Agreement. And whereas Turkey has continued to destabilize the Aegean Sea and the Eastern Mediterranean Sea region, as a result, Greece, Israel, Cyprus have formed a trilateral cooperation agreement against the aggressive regional policies of Turkey. Each country's strong relationship with the United States, as well as the prospect of an Eastern Mediterranean pipeline enabling safe transmission of gas to Western Europe, are critical to security and energy stability. Passage of the Eastern Mediterranean Security and Energy Partnership Act of 2019 will facilitate energy and security cooperation between the United States, Greece, Cyprus, and Israel. And whereas a high-level review of the United States-Greece strategic dialogue took place in Greece on September 28, 2020, which underscored Greece's importance to the United States as a geostrategic partner in the Eastern Mediterranean and Balkans, and as an important NATO ally. And whereas, in support of the Greece 2021 Committee established by the government of Greece, the United States Mission in Greece has launched a campaign to celebrate the bicentennial of the independence of Greece and the 200 years of friendship between the United States and Greece. And whereas it is proper and desirable for the United States to celebrate this anniversary with the Greek people and to reaffirm the democratic principles from which these 2 great nations were born. Now therefore be it resolved that this Senate of the State of Rhode Island hereby celebrates March 25th, 2021 as the 200th anniversary of Greek independence, reaffirms Rhode Island's abiding commitment to the magnificent principles of democracy and religious freedom, and urges Turkey to respect the rights and religious freedoms of the Ecumenical Patriarchate, and be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be and hereby is authorized and directed to transmit duly certified copies of this resolution to the Annunciation Greek Orthodox Church of Cranston, the Assumption Greek Orthodox Church of Pawtucket, the St. Spiridion Greek Orthodox Church of Newport, members of the Rhode Island Congressional Delegation, the Honorable Stratos Efthymiou, Consul General of the Hellenic Republic in Boston, Archbishop Elpidophoros of the Greek Archdiocese of America.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Senator Raptakis.
Thank you, Mr. President, and my colleagues in government. First, I want to thank everyone for the support you have shown that every senator has signed on this year's resolution honoring the 200th anniversary of Greece's Declaration of Independence and celebrating the Feast of the Annunciation. For the last 28 years, this Senate to be honoring Rhode Island's Hellenic American communities. And lastly, I just want to say that some of our own Rhode Islanders, as you heard, Providence-born George Wilson fought with the Greek Navy against the Turkish fleet in 1827, and Samuel Gridley Howe, a graduate of Brown University, traveled to Greece with much enthusiasm in support of the Greek people. A monument honoring Howe is present on the campus of Brown University, erected in 1935 by AHEPA, the American Hellenic Educational Progressive Association, an organization formed in 1922 in Atlanta, Georgia, fighting for civil rights and against discrimination, bigotry, and hatred felt at the hands of the KKK. The American Philippines came back to the United States to fight for the abolition of slavery and protect and preserve democracy in our own nation. Lastly, the War of Greek Independence on March 25, 1821, is a strong reminder and a beacon of democracy throughout the entire world for all of us. Thank you, Mr. President, my colleagues. Zito Yelada. And I move passage.
Senator Takis moves passage of the resolution. Is there a second? Seconded by Leader McCaffrey, Senator Goodwin, Senator Felix, Senator Sosnowski, Senator Lombardo, Senator Chacon, Senator Anderson, Senator DeMario, Senator Casada, Senator Coleman, Senator Lawson, Senator Mack, Senator Picard, Senator Acosta, Senator Gallo, Senator Miller, Senator Chacon, Senator Algier, Senator Morgan, Senator Burke, Senator Paolino, Senator Dela Cruz, Senator Archibald, Senator Cano, Senator Corkin, Senator Bell, Senator Rogers, Senator Murray, Senator Valverde, Senator Coyne, Senator Seveny, Senator DePalmer, Senator Oyer, Senator Picard, Senator Paolino, Senator Coleman, Senator Lawson, Senator Lawson, your light is lit. A discussion on the resolution. Hearing none, those in favor of the resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The resolution passes. The next item on the calendar is by Senator Mendes, a Senate resolution joyously celebrating Emancipation Day of Puerto Rico on March 22nd, 2021. Senator Mendes. Senator Mendes requests that the resolution be read. The clerk will please do so.
Senate Resolution joyously celebrating Emancipation Day of Puerto Rico on March 22nd, 2021. Whereas Emancipation Day is an official holiday of the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, commemorating the abolition of slavery on March 22nd, 1873, when the island was still a colony of Spain. On that day, the Spanish National Assembly banned slavery in Puerto Rico. And whereas 25 years later, in 1898, American troops defeated Spain in the Spanish-American War, raised the flag in Puerto Rico, and the United States officially took control of the former Spanish colony. On March 2, 1917, President Woodrow Wilson signed the James Shafroth Act into law, under which Puerto Rico became a United States territory and granted statutory citizenship to Puerto Ricans. The act also created a Bill of Rights for the territory and separated its government into executive, legislative, and judicial branches. And whereas on May 18, 1917, President Wilson signed the Selective Service Act of 1917 into law, and 20,000 Puerto Ricans were eventually drafted to serve during World War I. Puerto Rican soldiers were sent to guard the Panama Canal, which made Puerto Rico a critical part of the United States war efforts. And whereas the first Puerto Ricans in Providence arrived in the 1920s and moved into the surrounding areas to work in the agricultural and manufacturing industries. Rhode Island is now home to more than 40,000 Puerto Ricans, and Rhode Island served as a place of refuge for many Puerto Rican friends and family members after Hurricane Maria devastated the island in 2017. Now therefore be it resolved that this Senate of the State of Rhode Island hereby recognizes the territory of Puerto Rico for its major contributions in science and pharmaceutical development, which have advanced our nation's ability to reduce our dependence on foreign pharmaceutical ingredients and be on the cutting edge of pharmaceutical advancement. And be it further resolved that this Senate hereby joyously celebrates March 22nd, 2021 as Emancipation Day of Puerto Rico, and furthermore recognizes Rhode Island's shared history with the territory of Puerto Rico and its contributions to our country and our state. And be it further resolved that this Senate hereby further recognizes that over a century later, the citizens of Puerto Rico, although Americans by birth, are not fully recognized and honored by being denied full voting citizenship because it is not guaranteed by the Constitution, nor are they represented in our federal government with a voting delegation. And be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be and hereby is authorized and directed to transmit a duly certified copy of this resolution to the Governor of Puerto Rico, the Honorable Pedro Pierluisi Urrutia.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Senator Mendes.
Thank you, Senate President. This resolution gives us an opportunity to share in the celebration. There are over 40,000 Puerto Rican Rhode Islanders who are working, raising families, playing, and even legislating in our beautiful state. I am one of them. My mother was born in the lush green mountains of Bayamón, Puerto Rico. For 100 years, Puerto Rico has been a part of the United States, a territory with 100 years of shared history, but not a shared voice. Because although every single Puerto Rican is born a U.S. citizen, they do not have a congressperson, nor a senator, and no vote in the chambers of our highest places of decision-making. I have learned from my mother that when we care about relationships, we do not just show up for the joyful times, but we show up in full recognition of the hurt as well. So here we are, resolving to hold both the joy and the hurt of our shared story. Yesterday, March 22nd, many of our fellow Americans in Puerto Rico had a day off celebrating Emancipation Day, the day Puerto Ricans were liberated from the enslavement of Spain. I applaud the subversiveness of this holiday, of making current colonizers recognize the hurt of previous colonizers. That what is drowned out under the music that makes us want to dance, and the food that will change your life, and the laughter of the liberated, is the hush of irony. The irony that we have yet to find a place, our place, in this old story. The looming threat of repeating narratives of oppression. But if we listen closely, we can hear it. I heard it. I went there a number of years ago to do some mission work with some families actually from East Providence. We were shocked to find that the sales tax was 10.5% when we got there, higher than any state in the United States. And further stunned that the economy was paralyzed by commerce upholding the Jones Act, crumbling infrastructure, the result of taxation without representation. As we heard in this resolution, we acquired the island in March. By May, 2 months later, we drafted and shipped out 20 humans, shields, into World War I. How do we say thank you for your service in Spanish? Can we say it loud enough to reach their shores? So in this resolution, it states, therefore be it resolved that the Senate of the state of Rhode Island hereby recognizes the state of Puerto Rico. Recognizes. Recognize. We recognize, do we recognize, can we recognize in this the eugenic practice of 1920 on the women of the island without informed consent that brought about the advancement of our current pharmaceutical contraceptions, the gift to all women today, birthed out of the pain of inhumane experiments conducted 100 years ago. We recognize that Puerto Rico took the risk of being the homeland to our pharmaceutical development with their most brilliant minds working on medication that we currently all benefit from. Many Rhode Islanders depend on what was formulated and manufactured on that island and billions of dollars that they made for big pharma. Lastly, no, not lastly, another one. We recognize that many of us serve as free interpreters, even now, even here, today, explaining how that when powerful people dictate decorum and demand our bodies, it translates in a different language to us and it communicates when we talk about terms, it communicates an incomplete emancipation when we talk about terms of decorum which remind us of colonization. Lastly, Rhode Islanders show that we care because we can both celebrate the joy and recognize the hurts. We did that after Hurricane Maria decimated the island. We did it again when the earthquakes hit. I saw many in my community raise money, put water and clothes drives together, buy tickets, fly family members to see loved ones in safety, and even house people that they did not know. We know we are in a shared climate crisis with Puerto Rico. And there are many more climate refugees that are coming until we get aggressive about addressing it. After hurricanes get more and more intense, after their biodiversity is destroyed by parasitic plantations brought from foreign places because they thrive off tourism because of the lack of infrastructure, and earthquakes decimate the already fragile infrastructure, Puerto Ricans remain unshaken. And there it is, the gift to Rhode Island, the lesson, putting people before profits, the lesson in forgiveness, the lesson in grit, the lesson in redemption, the lesson in true emancipation, the lesson that we should all resolve to recognize. I move passage.
Senator Mendes moves passage. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Chacon, Senator Anderson, Senator Felag, Senator McCaffrey, Senator Lombardo, Senator Sosnowski, Senator Lombardi, Senator Lawson, Senator Mack, Senator Picard, Senator Casada, Senator DeMario, Senator Algier, Senator Burke, Senator Miller, Senator Archibald, Senator Rogers, Senator Cano, Senator Corkin, Senator Bell, Senator Reptacker, Senator Murray, Senator Oyer, Senator Valverde, Senator Coyne, Senator 70, Senator DePalmer, Senator Gallo, Senator Bell, Senator Paolino, Senator Coleman, Senator Costa, Senator Coyne, Senator 70, Senator Morgan. Is there discussion on the resolution? Excuse me. Hearing none, all those in favor of the resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The resolution passes. Next item on our calendar is Senate Bill 697 by Senator Algier, an act authorizing the town of Westerly to issue not to exceed $11 million general obligation bonds, notes, and other evidences of indebtedness to finance the construction of road and sidewalk infrastructure improvements and related water line improvements in the town. Authorizes the town of Westerly to issue bonds and notes in the amount of not exceeding $11 million to finance the construction of road and sidewalk infrastructure improvements and related water line improvements in the town and all costs related thereto. Mr. Leader.
Without objection, move passage.
Senator Algier moves passage of the resolution. Is there a second? Second by Leader McCaffrey. Senator Goodwin, Senator Lombardo, Senator Chacon, Senator Sosnowski, Senator Lombardi, Senator Picard, Senator Burke, Senator DeMario, Senator Acosta, Senator Casada, Senator Murray, Senator Oyer, Senator Valverde, Senator DePalmer, Senator Rogers, Senator Archibald, Senator Mack, Senator Morgan, Senator Coyne, Senator Anderson, Senator Lawson, Senator Felag, Senator Mendes, Senator Paolino, Senator Archibald. A discussion on the resolution. Senator Lawson, your light is lit. No? Okay. Hearing none. All those in favor of the resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The resolution passes.
Mr. President, I believe we need a vote on that, Mr. President.
I'm sorry?
I think we need a vote on that, a tally, Mr. President.
No.
A board vote.
Oh, yes, okay. Thank you. I stand corrected. Thank you, Senator Algier. The clerk will please unlock the machine. Have all members recorded their vote? Clerk will lock the machine. There are 35 votes in the affirmative, none in the negative, and the and the resolution passes. The next item is by Senator Felag, a Senate resolution thanking and honoring...
Mr. President, without objection, can we
Senator Algier,
could we have the other resolution from Representative Kennedy introduced, that was introduced?
I don't believe we're in possession of the other resolution at this time. I think the House is, the House is going to be doing it, and it's probably in transit as we speak.
I believe the House passed that bill last week, and we should have it.
You got two. It's this one, 6108.
Oh, okay.
You want to read it? The companion bill.
Yeah.
It's a duplicate of,
That bill?
Yes.
All right, okay. That's House Bill 6108 by Kennedy, an act authorizing the town of Westerly to issue not to exceed $11 million general obligation bonds, notes, and other evidences of indebtedness to finance the construction of road and sidewalk infrastructure improvements and related water line improvements in the town. Authorizes the town of Westerly to issue bonds and notes in the amount not to exceed $11 million to finance the construction of road and sidewalk infrastructure improvements and related water line improvements in the town and all costs related to. Leader Algier.
move passage.
Leader Algier moves passage. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator McCaffrey, Senator Chacon, Senator Sosnowski, Senator Morgan, Senator Mack, Senator Coleman, Senator Lawson, Senator Picard, Senator Coyne, Senator Palmer, Senator Oyer, Senator Dela Cruz, Senator Burke, Senator Rogers, Senator Felix, Senator Lombardo, Senator Marias, Senator Acosta, Senator Casada, Senator Coleman, Senator Lawson, Senator Seveny. Discussion on the resolution. Hearing none, the clerk will please unlock the machine. If all members have cast their vote, the clerk will lock the machine. There are 35 votes in the affirmative, none in the negative, and the act passes.
And Mr. President, without objection, I'd like that immediately transmitted to the governor.
Senator Algier requests that immediately be transferred to His Excellency the Governor. Hearing no objection, so ordered. Our next item is by Senator Felag, a Senate resolution thanking and honoring America's and Rhode Island's Vietnam War veterans and asking that all Rhode Island residents remember their service and sacrifice on behalf of our nation on Vietnam Veterans Day that occurs annually on the 29th day of March. Mr.
Can that
Chairman.
be read, please?
Chairman requests that the resolution be read. The clerk will please do so.
The Senate resolution thanking and honoring America's and Rhode Island's Vietnam War veterans and asking that all Rhode Island residents remember their service and sacrifice on behalf of our nation on Vietnam Veterans Day that occurs annually on the 29th day of March. Whereas our nation owes an unmeasurable debt to all those individuals who have served in the United States Armed Forces, whether volunteering so another would not have to go, or answering the call when drafted, or out of a profound and selfless sense of duty, often shouldering the burden of long periods away from home, difficult and frequently dangerous training and deployments, and inherent physical, mental, and emotional risks. Such is the debt we owe to our Vietnam veterans. And whereas more than 2.7 million United States Armed Forces personnel served in Vietnam from 1965 to 1975, approximately 21,000 members of the armed forces from Rhode Island served during the Vietnam War. And whereas over 58,000 of the armed forces lost their lives in that conflict, and more than 304,000 were wounded. The casualties included more than 200 service members who called Rhode Island their home. And whereas Vietnam veterans were not accorded the same welcome home as those who served in other wars. Rather, those who had answered the call to serve the United States in Vietnam were more often treated with animosity by their fellow countrymen upon arriving home. And whereas, though the Vietnam War was unpopular at the time and continues to have a complex and divisive history today, the brave American citizens who left their homes to serve in Vietnam should be fully supported and honored by a grateful nation. And whereas, remembering the service of Vietnam veterans honors their bravery and ensures that they are not forgotten. We remain deeply appreciative of their sacrifice and steadfastly supportive of our Vietnam War veterans and their families who still grapple with the visible and unseen scars of war. And whereas in 2017, the Rhode Island General Assembly passed Rhode Island General Law 25-2-20, which sets aside the 29th day of March to be known as Vietnam Veterans Day. Now therefore be it resolved that the Senate of the State of Rhode Island hereby thanks and honors all of America's and Rhode Island's Vietnam War veterans, and asks that all Rhode Island residents remember their service and sacrifice on behalf of our nation on Vietnam Veterans Day. And be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be and hereby is authorized and directed to transmit duly certified copies of this resolution to the Honorable Daniel McKee, Governor of the State of Rhode Island, and Major General Christopher Callahan, Adjutant General of the State of Rhode Island.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr.
Our
Chairman.
first president, George Washington, stated that the willingness in which our young people are likely to serve in any war, no matter how justified, is directly proportional how they perceived the veterans of earlier wars were treated and appreciated by their nation. I truly believe that we lost a decade of those individuals who wanted to serve, but when they saw the treatment of the Vietnam soldiers coming home, they backed down and said, no way. Our nation made a grave mistake, an injustice to those individuals. Over the years, we've made up in some ways by saying thanks to them. I know our little town in the town of Warren, every Sunday of Memorial Day weekend, we have a small ceremony where we honor all our Vietnam veterans, but especially those who did not return. Their names are Bruley, Deriso, Crosick, and Wilkinson, who are etched in my mind as paying the ultimate sacrifice. So on Monday, it'd be greatly appreciated if you see a Vietnam veteran, tell them thank you, and thank you for their service, and I move passage.
Chairman Phelan moves passage of the resolution. Is there a second? Seconded by Leader McCaffrey, Senator Goodwin, Senator Gallo, Senator Chacon, Senator Sosnowski, Senator Lombardi, Senator Picard, Senator DeMario, Senator Burke, Senator Algier, Senator Morgan, Senator Paolino, Senator Archambault, Senator Cano, Senator Corkin, Senator DeMario, Senator Acosta, Senator Lombardo, Senator Anderson, Senator Valverde, Senator Coyne, Senator Seveny, Senator Palmer, Senator Coleman, Senator Lawson, Senator Oya, Senator Murray, Senator Reptakis, Senator Bell, Senator Rogers, Senator Dela Cruz, Senator Coleman. Is there discussion on the resolution? Hearing none, those in favor of the resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The resolution passes. Next item is by Senator Cano, a Senate resolution condemning the surging violence, xenophobia, and intolerance against Asian Americans. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can I have that resolution be read, please?
Chairwoman Cano asks that the resolution be read. The clerk will please do so.
Senate resolution condemning the surging violence, xenophobia, and intolerance against Asian Americans. Whereas historically the United States as a whole has discriminated and restricted our Asian American population through the passage of the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II, and the formation of the Asiatic Barred Zone in the Immigration Act of 1917. And whereas since the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, racial animus and crimes targeting Asian Americans have risen dramatically, exemplified by the use of the racist reference to COVID-19 as the China virus, despite the World Health Organization's guidelines in disease naming. And whereas Stop AAPI Hate, a coalition that tracks incidents of violence and harassment against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in the United States, reported nearly 3,800 instances of discrimination against Asians in the past year, including 503 incidents in 2021, compared with the roughly 100 incidents annually in previous years. And whereas, in addition to the significant increase in incidents of violence and harassment, Asian-owned businesses have seen a dramatic decline in revenue and patronage. And whereas, most recently, 8 innocent people were shot in 3 spas in the Atlanta area of the state of Georgia, with 6 of the 8 victims being Asian American women, which raises the fear that they were targeted due to their race. No provocation led to these attacks. And whereas Rhode Island has a vibrant, productive, and contributing Asian American community, numbering more than 37,000, the 5th largest ethnic group in the state. And whereas Rhode Island was founded on the belief and fully embraces diversity by supporting a just and inclusive society. And whereas all Rhode Islanders can play a role in establishing a safe and welcoming community by intervening and reporting instances of hate and discrimination. Reporting these incidents is critical to holding perpetrators accountable and supporting our vibrant Asian American communities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this Senate of the State of Rhode Island hereby strongly condemns these acts of white supremacy, hatred, racism, and violence against Asian Americans, and moreover urges all Rhode Islanders to speak out against all forms of discrimination, harassment, and violence directed at Asian Americans. And be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be and is hereby authorized and directed to transmit duly certified copies of this resolution to the Rhode Island Association of Chinese Americans, the South Asian Student Organization of the University of Rhode Island, the Brown University Korean American Student Association, the Center for Southeast Asians, the Filipino American Association of Newport County, Inc., Hope Foundation International, the India Association of Rhode Island, the Alliance of Rhode Island Southeast Asians for Education, and Providence Youth Student Movement for Justice and Love.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you,
Chairwoman
Mr.
Cano.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. Once again, American more the killing of people of color. We need to continue to talk about racism and inequality, the plague that our increasingly diverse demographic in the United States have continuously been targeted. Last week, 8 innocent people lost their lives. We need to call them and remember and honor them by name. Dayon Feng, 44. Yoon Jong Grant, 51. Soncha Kim, 69. Paul Andre Michaels, 54. Soon Chong Park, 74. Seonji Tan, 49. Delania Asher John, 33. John A. Yu, 63. There is no denial that race and gender are factors in this tragedy. The attack in Georgia was another example of how white supremacy continues shaping America. The events in Georgia are truly heartbreaking. I mourn the victims of anti-Asian hate attacks and hope the families get the justice that they deserve. These senseless acts of violence against our Asian American communities needs to stop. We must act now. A horrific and heartbreaking surge in violence against Asian Americans and Pacific Island Southeast Asians is happening across the United States. Together, it is our responsibility to condemn hate and create lasting social change. Rhode Island has a vibrant, productive, and contributing Asian American community. From our Southeast Asians to our Chinese Americans, numbering more than 37,000, the 5th largest ethnic group in the state. Let's stand with the Asian American community and let's remain committed to rectifying the racial inequalities in our society. I urge all my colleagues to strongly condemn this act of hatred, racism, and violence against Asian Americans, and moreover, urge all the Rhode Islanders to speak out all forms of discrimination, harassment, and violence directed at our Asian American neighbors and friends. This is a statement of support. I move passage, and I hope that the members of the Senate support me on this resolution today.
Chairwoman Cano moves passage of the resolution. Is there a second? Second by Leader McCaffrey, Senator Goodwin, Senator Gallo, Senator Chacon, Senator Miller, Senator Felag, Senator Sazdowski, Senator Picard, Senator Mario, Senator Acosta, Senator Gallo, Senator Mendes, Senator Lombardo, Senator Algier, Senator Burke, Senator Archibald, Senator Bell, Senator Rogers, Senator Corkin, Senator Anderson, Senator Lombardi, Senator Coleman, Senator Lawson, Senator Mack, Senator Casada, Senator Valverde, Senator Coyne, Senator Aptakis, Senator Murray, Senator Oyer, Senator Seveny, Senator DePalmer. Discussion on the resolution. Hearing none, those in favor of the resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The resolution passes. Next item is House Bill number 5696, an act authorizing the town of South Kingston to issue not to exceed $85 million general obligation bonds, notes, and other evidences of indebtedness to finance the construction, renovation, improvement, alteration, repair, landscaping, furnishing, and equipping of schools and school facilities throughout the town and all attendant expenses, including, but not limited to, engineering and architectural costs, provided that the authorization shall be reduced by the amount of certain grants received from state bond proceeds from the Rhode Island Department of Education or from the Rhode Island School Building Authority. Senator Sosnowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the House version of the bill that we had already passed, that I had sponsored, and I would move passage.
Senator Sosnowski moves passage. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator McCaffrey, Senator Algier, Senator Goodwin, Senator Lombardo, Senator Chacon, Senator Burke, Senator Felag, Senator Archambault, Senator Murray, Senator Oya, Senator Valverde, Senator Coyne, Senator 70, Senator De Palma, Senator Lombardi, Senator Coleman, Senator Lawson, Senator Mario, Senator Casada, Senator Rogers. Is there discussion on the act? Senator Coleman also seconds it. Clerk will please unlock the machine. Have all members recorded their vote? Clerk will lock the machine. There were 37 votes in the affirmative, none in the negative, and the act passes. That brings us to consent calendar. Senator McCaffrey moves the consent calendar, seconded by Senator Algier. The clerk will please unlock the machine. Have all members registered their vote? The clerk will lock the machine. There are 37 votes in the affirmative, none in the negative, and the consent calendar is adopted. That brings us to our Senate calendar. Item number 1 on today's Senate calendar, the appointment of R. David Cruz, Esquire, Vice Associate Justice Bennett Gallo as Associate Justice of the Rhode Island Superior Court. Senator Coyne.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am pleased to rise in support of the appointment of R. David Cruz as Associate Justice of the Rhode Island Superior Court. Mr. Cruz is uniquely qualified for this position. He has spent the bulk of his career working in public service. He has served in this chamber both as a senator and as chief of staff. He has worked in municipal government and has served as a councilman for the town of Cumberland. He has worked for the executive branch in numerous capacities and spent time in Washington working at the federal level. He has also previously served as administrative magistrate of the Rhode Island Traffic Tribunal, an attorney in private practice, and spent several years working at the Rhode Island Resource Recovery Corporation. In testimony before the Judiciary Committee, Superior Court Associate Justice Joseph A. Montalbano spoke of how Mr. Cruz's career experience, having served across all branches of government, will be an asset to the bench of the Superior Court. He also praised Mr. Cruz's even temperament, keen knowledge of the law, and passion for justice, and how they are crucial to this position on one of the state's busiest courts. I am confident that Mr. Cruz is the ideal candidate to serve on Rhode Island Superior Court. I am pleased to move this nomination and ask that the Senate join me in granting advice and consent to R. David Cruz.
Senator Corcoran moves the advice and consent of R. David Cruz, Esquire, Vice Associate Justice Bennett Gallo as Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the Superior Court. Is there a second? Second by Leader McCaffrey, Senator Goodwin, Senator Lombardo, Senator Felag, Senator Miller, Senator Sosnowski, Senator Chacon, Senator Picard, Senator Lombardi, Senator Algier, Senator Morgan, Senator Burke, Senator Archambault, Senator Aptaka, Senator Oya, Senator 70, Senator Coleman, Senator De Palma, Senator Valverde, Senator Rogers, Senator Gallo, Senator Mario, Senator Lawson, and Senator Murray. Discussion on the nominee. Hearing none, the clerk will please unlock the machine. If all members have cast their vote, the clerk will lock the machine. There were 37 votes in the affirmative, none in the negative, and the advice and consent of the Senate is given to David Cruz as the Associate Justice of the Rhode Island Superior Court. 37-0. Our next item on our agenda is the appointment of Daniel V. Ballarano as General Magistrate of the Rhode Island Family Court. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of the appointment of Daniel V. Ballarano as General Magistrate of the Rhode Island Family Court. Associate Justice of the Family Court Stephen J. Caponeri spoke to the Judiciary Committee in support of this appointment. Judge Caponeri told the committee of the many years he has known Mr. Ballarano and how he was consistently impressed with the efficiency and accuracy with which he would handle approximately 75 to 100 cases daily. Judge Caponeri also spoke of Mr. Ballarano's ability to devote himself to complex divorce cases, a difficult position because the people involved are generally enduring one of the worst times of their lives. Judge Caponeri further praised Mr. Ballarano's ability to treat those he represented fairly and with the utmost respect, qualities he will certainly bring to the family court bench. I ask the Senate to join me in granting advice and consent to the appointment of Daniel V. Ballarano as General Magistrate of the Rhode Island Family Court.
Chairwoman Coyne moves the advice and consent of Daniel V. Ballarano as General Magistrate of the Rhode Island Family Court. Is there a second? Second by Leader McCaffrey, Senator Gallo, Senator Lombardo, Senator Chacon, Senator Felix, Senator Sosnowski, Senator Lombardi, Senator Goodwin, Senator Picard, Senator Lawson, Senator Algier, Senator Burke, Senator Archibald, Senator Dela Cruz, Senator Rogers, Senator Bell, Senator Oya, Senator Valverde, Senator Raptakis, Senator Lombardo. Discussion on the nominee? Senator Lombardo.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. I certainly second that motion. It's an honor to speak on behalf of Daniel Ballarano in support of his appointment as a General Magistrate in the Rhode Island Family Court. Most of the time, when we are speaking on behalf of a candidate, we know of them and their accomplishments, but we really do not know them personally. That is not the case today. I have been a family friend of the Ballaranos for 30 years. In fact, Dan's brother Joseph is one of my closest friends. I have been at many celebrations, family gatherings, and parties. I've been with Danny at his brother's weddings, and unfortunately, the funeral of his mother Jean, who died in 2014. In coincidence, she would have been 84 yesterday. She was an amazing woman, and we sorely miss her. I can tell you unequivocally, having seen him in good times and bad, he is focused, competent, and balanced. He is a wonderful tempered, fair, and honest man. He is not only brilliant, but also a highly ethical person and a loyal friend. Dan is the father of Rachel, Stephen, and Matthew. He has been a great role model and continues to inspire them. He has 2 grandchildren, Ruby and Gina, and you can hear the joy, love, and hope in his voice when he speaks about them. I cannot think of a better person or family man and well-rounded person for this position other than Dan. In closing, I'd like to reiterate my unequivocal support for Danny as he seeks the appointment to the family court. There is no doubt in my mind he will be an amazing magistrate, and I am asking my colleagues to join me in support of his nomination. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Chairman Lombardo. Further discussion on the candidate? Hearing none, the clerk will unlock the machine. Will the Senate give its advice and consent to Daniel V. Ballarano as General Magistrate of the Rhode Island Family Court? If all members have cast their vote, the clerk will lock the machine. There are 37 votes in the affirmative, none in the negative, and the appointment of Daniel Ballarano as General Magistrate of the Rhode Island Family Court is approved. Item number 3 on today's calendar, the appointment of Denise Kasich Finkelman, Esquire, as Magistrate of the Rhode Island Family Court. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is my pleasure to rise in support of the appointment of Denise Kasich Finkelman as Magistrate of the Rhode Island Family Court. In testimony before the Judiciary Committee, Judge Richard A. Marola spoke in strong support of this appointment. Judge Marola has known Ms. Kasich Finkelman for over 15 years, having met as fellow attorneys practicing in the family court. He was immediately struck by the level of knowledge and experience she brought to the courtroom every day. Judge Marola further spoke of the importance of being fully prepared when working with Ms. Kasich Finkelman because she knew the law and her cases inside and out, all while handling her clients and their difficult and emotional cases with the utmost compassion. Ms. Kasich Finkelman's knowledge of the law, devotion to those she is serving, and her strong sense of compassion will be essential to her work on the family court. I am confident that Ms. Kasich Finkelman will be an excellent magistrate of the Rhode Island Family Court, and I am pleased to move this nomination and ask the Senate to join me in granting advice and consent.
Chairwoman Coyne moves the appointment of Denise Kasich Finkelman, Esquire, as magistrate of the Rhode Island Family Court. Is there a second? Second by Leader McCaffrey, Senator Goodwin. Senator Gallo, Senator Lombardo, Senator Miller, Senator Felag, Senator Sosnowski, Senator Lombardi, Senator Picard, Senator Algier, Senator Burke, Senator Connell, Senator Seveny, Senator Oyer, Senator Rogers, Senator Archambault, Senator Lombardo, Senator Felag, Senator Zamarias, Senator Casada, Senator Lawson, Senator Valverde, Senator Goodwin, Senator Aptakis. Discussion on the candidate. Hearing none, the clerk will please unlock the machine. Will the Senate grant its advice and consent to Denise Kasich Finkelman, Esquire, as magistrate of the Rhode Island Family Court? Have all members cast their vote. The clerk will lock the machine. There are 37 votes in the affirmative, none in the negative, and the Senate has granted its advice and consent to the appointment of Denise Kasich Finkelman, Esquire, as magistrate of Rhode Island Family Court. Item number 4 on today's calendar is the appointment of Stephen Burke of West Warwick as clerk of the Superior Court for Providence and Bristol counties for a term expiring February 1st, 2026. Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Senator Burke requests that he be recused from this vote. Madam Chair, you may continue.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of the appointment of Stephen Burke as clerk of the Superior Court for Providence and Bristol counties. In support of this nomination, Christina Nardi, assistant to the chairperson on the Commission of Judicial Tenure and Discipline, told the committee of having first met Mr. Burke over 20 years ago when the two worked in the data entry department of the court. Ms. Nardi praised Mr. Burke's work ethic, tenacity, and dedication, which have helped him advance through the courts to where he is today, a nominee to serve as court clerk. I am confident that Mr. Burke's tenure in the Superior Court will be an asset to his work as clerk, and I ask the Senate to join me in granting advice and consent to the appointment of Stephen Burke as clerk of the Superior Court for Providence and Bristol counties.
Chairwoman Coyne moves the appointment of Stephen Burke of West Warwick as clerk of the Superior Court for from Providence and Bristol counties for a term expiring February 1st, 2026. Is there a second? Second by Leader McCaffrey, Senator Gallo, Senator Lombardo, Senator Felag, Senator Sosnowski, Senator Picard, Senator Lombardi, Senator Anderson, Senator Mario, Senator Lawson, Senator Archibald, Senator Algier, Senator Rogers, Senator De Palma, Senator Oyer, Senator Valverde, Senator Aptakis, Senator Goodwin, Senator Murray. Discussion on the appointment of Stephen Burke. Hearing none, the clerk will please unlock the machine. If all members have cast their vote, the clerk will lock the machine. There are 36 votes in the affirmative, none in the negative, and the appointment of Stephen Burke of West Warwick as clerk of the Superior Court for Providence and Bristol counties for a term expiring February 1st, 2026 is approved. Next item on today's calendar, the appointment of Danielle Keegan of North Kingstown as clerk of the Superior Court for Kent County for a term expiring February 1st, 2026. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of the appointment of Danielle Keegan as clerk of the Kent County Superior Court. In testimony before the Judiciary Committee, Marissa Brown, Superior Court Administrator, praised Ms. Keegan's strong management skills she gained from working in the private sector for over 20 years. She is also adept at the technological components of court procedure and dedicated to completing her work thoroughly and accurately. She also praised Ms. Keegan's ingenuity and ability to learn quickly and how she was able to step up to the plate and serve as a leader as the court had to adapt to the COVID-19 regulations over the past year. I believe Ms. Keegan is the perfect candidate to serve the clerk's desk in the Kent County Superior Court. I ask the Senate to join me in granting its advice and consent to the appointment of Danielle Keegan.
Senator Coyne moves the advice and consent of Danielle Keegan of North Kingstown as clerk of the Superior Court for Kent County for a term expiring February 1st, 2026. Is there a second? Second by Leader McCaffrey, Leader Algier, Senator Gallo, Senator Felix, Senator Sosnowski, Senator Burke, Senator Archibald, Senator Lombardi, Senator Lawson, Senator DeMario, Senator Rogers, Senator Raptakis, Senator Valverde, Senator Seveny, Senator Goodwin, Senator Cano, Senator Picard. Discussion on the candidate. Senator Burke, your light is lit. Would you like to discuss the candidate? Okay. Hearing none, the clerk will please unlock the machine. If all members have cast their vote, the clerk will lock the machine. There are 37 votes in the affirmative, none in the negative, and the appointment of Danielle Keegan of North Kingstown as clerk of the Superior Court for Kent County for a term expiring February 1st, 2026 is passed. Senator De La Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the immediate consideration calendar, may I be recognized in favor of S697, please?
That was on the, I'm sorry, would you repeat that?
I missed the first vote that required a roll call. Was it Rep. Packets?
Oh, Senate Bill 697?
Yes.
The Senate Algiers bill. That does not affect the outcome. Hearing no objection, so ordered.
Thank you.
Item number 6 on today's calendar is the reappointment of John Graziano of Cranston as clerk of the Superior Court for Newport County for a term expiring February 1st, 2026. Madam Chair, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am pleased to rise in support of the reappointment of John Graziano as clerk of the Newport County Superior Court. Marissa Brown, Court Administrator, spoke in support of Mr. Graziano's reappointment. Ms. Brown spoke of Mr. Graziano's journey rising through the ranks of the courts throughout his 14-year career. She noted that throughout his time in the Superior Court, Mr. Graziano was known for consistently going above and beyond the call of duty. For example, it was noted that he frequently provided assistance to court clerks in other counties throughout the state, and his work was even more essential as the courts adapted during COVID-19. She also noted his strong managerial skills, which are crucial to his duties as clerk. I am confident that Mr. Graziano has the necessary skills and knowledge to continue to serve as an excellent court clerk, and I ask my colleagues to join me in granting his advice and consent.
Senator Coyne moves the advice and consent of John Graziano of Cranston as clerk of the Superior Court for Newport County for a term expiring February 1st, 2026. Is there a second? Second by Senator McCaffrey, Senator Goodwin, Senator Gallo, Senator Lombardo, Senator Miller, Senator Felix, Senator Sosnowski, Senator Picard, Senator Lombardi, Senator Algier, Senator Oya, Senator Valverde, Senator Raptakis, Senator Rogers, Senator Archibald, Senator Burke, Senator Lawson, Senator DeMario, Senator Cano. Discussion on the nominee. Hearing none, the clerk will please unlock the machine. Have all members cast their vote? Clerk will lock the machine with 37 votes in the affirmative, none in the negative, and The reappointment of John Graziano of Cranston as Clerk of the Superior Court for Newport County for a term expiring February 1st, 2026 is approved. Next item on today's calendar. The appointment of Brendan Oates of Providence as Clerk of the Superior Court for Washington County for a term expiring February 1st, 2026. Madam Chair.
Mr. President, I'm pleased to rise in support of someone who is no stranger to anyone here, Brendan Oates, and his appointment as Clerk of the Superior Court for Washington County. Brendan has served the Senate since 2005 when he entered the State House as a page and legislative intern. In this time, he has gone on to serve as a constituent services liaison, a legislative coordinator, and deputy legislative director, a post he has held since 2017. In addition, Brendan's commitment to public service isn't limited to his serving here in the Senate. For 4 years, he served as an at-large member of the Smithfield School Committee, where he collectively formulated and executed a $35 million general operating and capital improvement budget, and oversaw the 2,500 student school district. We all know Brendan's attention to detail, knowledge, and diligence will make him an excellent court clerk. I think I could speak for all of us in saying he will be deeply missed, but the Senate's loss is the court's gain. I wish Brendan the best of luck as he embarks on this new chapter in his life, and I ask the Senate to join me in granting advice and consent to Brendan Oates as Clerk of the Washington County Superior Court.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair moves the appointment of Brendan Oates of Providence as Clerk of the Superior Court for Washington County for a term expiring February 1st, 2026. Is there anyone interested in seconding this? Seconded by Senator McCaffrey, Senator Goodwin, Senator Gallo, Senator Lombardo, Senator Felix, Senator Sosnowski, Senator Lombardi, Senator Picard, Senator Algier, Senator Burke, Senator Cano, Senator Murray, Senator Valverde, Senator Palmer, Senator Oya, Senator Seveny, Senator Rogers, Senator Dela Cruz, Senator Archibald, Senator Paolino, Senator Morgan, Senator Anderson, Senator Mendes, Senator Gallo, Senator DeMario, Senator Casada, Senator Pearson, Senator Coleman, Senator Lawson, Senator Aptakis, Senator Paolino, Senator Coleman. Discussion on the nominee. Hearing none, the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all senators cast their vote? The clerk will lock the machine. There are 37 votes in the affirmative, none in negative, and the appointment of Brendan Oates of Providence as Clerk of the Superior Court for Washington County for a term expiring February 1st, 2026 has been approved. We are going to take a moment to revert to announcements and introductions. Madam Whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. It was with a very heavy heart that I give to the Rhode Island Senate the newest clerk to the Washington County Courthouse, our very own Brendan Thomas Oates. Congratulations, Brendan. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam Whip. Item number 8 on today's calendar is Senate Bill 281 by Senator Gallo, a Senate resolution respectfully requesting that the Office of the Post-Secondary Commissioner form a work group to conduct a thorough review into how Rhode Island can protect student loan borrowers. Madam Chair, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Student debt is an enormous burden on individuals and families and can multiply the effects of personal crisis if the borrower cannot stay current on their loans. Onerous late fees and collection practices from lenders can make it impossible for borrowers to get back on track, turning temporary problems into permanent ones. Rhode Island needs to identify all the tools that are available to us to protect our students in our state. Some of these loans have fees of up to 16% of the principal and accrued interest. Our students and families can never get caught up. It's a vicious cycle. Students need a college education to get a good job, but they can't make significant financial gains because of the burden of the student loans. I move passage.
Senator Gallo, before you move passage, Senator Gallo, Senator Pearson would like to be recused from the vote on this. Senator Gallo moves passage of the resolution. Is there a second? Seconded by Leader McCaffrey, Leader Algier, Senator Goodwin, Senator Miller, Senator Felix, Senator Sosnowski, Senator Lombardo, Senator Picard, Senator Lawson, Senator Lombardi, Senator DeMario, Senator Lombardo, Senator Anderson, Senator Burke, Senator Archibald, Senator Cano, Senator Corcoran, Senator Bell, Senator Raptakis, Senator Murray, Senator Oya, Senator Valverde, Senator Coyne, Senator Seveny, Senator DePalma, Senator Cano, Senator Mendes, Senator Casada, Senator Mack, Senator Goodwin. Discussion on the resolution. Hearing none, those in favor of the resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The resolution passes. Item number 9 on today's calendar is by Senator Goodwin. Senate Bill 383, an act relating to insurance, accident and sickness insurance policies. Madam Whip.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. I am very pleased to rise this afternoon to move passage of this important life-saving legislation. I'd first like to begin by thanking Chairman Miller for his work on this bill over the years. Thank you, Josh. He worked alongside insurance companies, the Health Insurance Commission, a whole host of folks to bring us this piece of legislation. Thank you for your patience. I'm hoping that the third time is the charm, that the House sees fit to pass this year, and I'm very hopeful. This bill would require health insurers to cover preventative colorectal cancer screening for all colorectal cancer examinations and laboratory tests in accordance with the American Cancer Society. The coverage must be provided without cost sharing, and it must include an initial screening and a follow-up colonoscopy if screening results are abnormal. The American Cancer Society guidelines recommend now that people at average risk of colorectal cancer start regular screenings at age 45. Colorectal cancer is the third most common cause of cancer in the United States. Unfortunately, we know that co-pays and cost sharing and lack of insurance coverage discourage people from getting the care they need to protect themselves. This legislation increases access to these important preventive screenings. Colon cancer is one of the most survivable forms of cancer, but only if it is detected early. If it is not, it has quite a grim outcome. This legislation will remove significant financial barriers that too often discourage or prevent people from getting this life-saving screening. Mr. President, as you and the members of this chamber know, I speak from personal experience when I say how very important this legislation is. Early detection of colon cancer for sure saves lives, and I move its passage. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Goodwin moves passage of the act, seconded by Leader McCaffrey, Senator Lombardo, Senator Mendes, Senator Miller, Senator Felix, Senator Sosnowski, Senator Picard, Senator Lawson, Senator DePalma, Senator Seveny, Senator Oya, Senator Murray, Senator Raptakis, Senator Algier, Senator Burke, Senator Archibald, Senator Cano, Senator Corcoran, Senator Valverde, Senator Coyne, Senator Seveny, Senator Bell, Senator Anderson, Senator DeMaria, Senator Acosta, Senator Casada, Senator Lawson, Senator Matt, Senator Rogers. On the act, Senator Gallo, you have an amendment.
Yes, I do. It's LC 000363/2.
Senator Gallo offers an amendment, LC 000363/2. Would you endeavor to explain the amendment?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm extremely honored this afternoon to offer a floor amendment on this bill on your behalf. As the members of this chamber know, Senator Goodwin has for many years championed the cause of ensuring people get their cancer screenings and colonoscopies. Each March, she has sponsored a resolution proclaiming the month Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. And for the past 3 years, she has sponsored, and this body has passed, the legislation before us to remove financial barriers to receiving this life-saving treatment. This cause has been a passion of hers, and her advocacy on the issue predates her own diagnosis. While all of us, I'm sure, have been touched by cancer in some way, the personal experience of our colleague, Mary Ellen Goodwin, has re-emphasized the importance of this issue in all of our hearts and minds. Mary Ellen is more than a colleague, she's more than the whip. She is a mentor to all of us and a dear friend. Mary Ellen is a fighter. She is the strongest person I know. And we all know that she is going to continue fighting strongly. Sorry. On behalf of her Smith Hill community and for everyone battling cancer. In recognition of her years of advocacy on this issue, including her leadership on this legislation before us, as well as her brave personal battle with colon cancer, this amendment would name the legislation the Mary Ellen Goodwin Colorectal Cancer Screening Act. I cannot think of a more appropriate way to honor Senator Goodwin than to name this act after her. Mr. President, I move the amendment.
Senator Gallo moves the amendment. Is there a second? Second by Leader McCaffrey, Senator Lombardo, Senator Miller, Senator Felag, Senator Picard, Senator Lombardi, Senator Sosnowski, Senator Zamarias, Senator Algier, Senator Burke, Senator Morgan, Senator Cano, Senator Corkin, Senator Valverde, Senator Murray, Senator Oya, Senator Reptakis, Senator Seveny, Senator De Palma, Senator Mack, Senator Lawson, Senator Coleman, Senator Acosta, Senator Casada, Senator Pearson, Senator Coyne, Senator Bell, Senator Rogers, Senator Paolino, Senator Archambault, Senator Anderson, Senator Coleman, Senator Lawson, Senator Mendes, Senator Dela Cruz. Discussion on the amendment. Hearing none, the clerk will please unlock the machine. If all members have cast their vote, the clerk will lock the machine. There are 37 votes in the affirmative, none in the negative, and the amendment passes. Senator Goodwin, would you like to move the act as amended?
I would, Mr. President, but before I would just like to thank you, Mr. President, for coming up with this idea, and for you, Senator Gallo, for your friendship. I never imagined after all of my years in service anything would be named after me, let alone this very personal act. Mr. President, you know, and the members of this chamber know, my cancer could have been detected a little earlier, and it was not the case. So I really don't know how much time I have left on this earth. But I assure you and the members of this chamber, I'll spend every living day advocating for early screening. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President told me about an hour ago, so I wouldn't become emotional, but it's not the case.
Whip Goodwin moves the act as amended. Is there a second? Seconded by Leader McCaffrey, Senator Gallo, Senator Lombardo, Senator Miller, Senator Felag, Senator Sosnowski, Senator Picard, Senator Lombardi, Senator De Palma, Senator Oya, Senator Murray, Senator Reptakis, Senator Valverde, Senator Coyne, Senator Seveny, Senator Coleman, Senator Lawson, Senator Mack, Senator Marias, Senator Acosta, Senator Casada, Senator Pearson, Senator Mendes, Senator Anderson, Senator Algier, Senator Morgan, Senator Paolino, Senator Dela Cruz, Senator Burke, Senator Archibald, Senator Rogers, Senator Cano, Senator Bell, Senator Corkin, and Senator Coleman. Discussion on the act is amended. Hearing none, the clerk will please unlock the machine. Have all members cast their vote. The clerk will lock the machine. There are 37 votes in the affirmative, none in the negative, and the act as amended passes. Item number 10 on our calendar is by Senator Palmer, Senate Bill 336 Sub A, an act adopting the rules of the Senate for years 2021 and 2022. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. The bill we have before us has 4 changes I'd like to briefly discuss. 2 are substantive, 2 are technical. The first change is in section 5.8. It adds a new section on oaths, and at the discretion of the chair, would allow the chair to have all testifiers testify under oath. The second change you'll see is in section 10.7.2, and you'll see in that's associated with allowing the Senate to have meetings which are virtual, which is what we're doing right now during states of emergency. Those are the 2 substantive changes. There are 2, I'll call them technical changes or minor changes to the rules. Section 10.10 and 10.10 cleans up the section regarding decorum and operation of the Senate. And section 10.13 also cleaning up a section with regards to the use of cell phones. Mr. President, with that appropriate, I move passage at the appropriate time. I like to call Senator Coleman to offer an amendment to the rules.
Senator Palmer moves passage of the act. Is there a second? Second by Leader McCaffrey, Leader Algier, Senator Whip Goodwin, Senator Sosnowski, Senator Coleman, Senator Picard, Senator Oyer, Senator Coyne, Senator Burke, Senator Lawson. On the act, Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have an amendment that I'd like to propose on the floor. This is 002239-7. The first 3 points of these are administrative. It's basically correcting the chapter of the law, replacing dots with dashes as it should be, just to make it correct. The substantive change that I'd like to propose is removing the attire mandates for guests in the State House. So, and the reason that I'm suggesting this is that when people come into the State House, which is their State House, they need to feel comfortable, and I do not believe that it is our position to tell them what to wear. And, you know, I see frequently young people, high school kids come, you know, if they have the courage to come into the State House, which is certainly something that I did not have when I was a high school student, I want them to feel welcome regardless of what they're wearing. That is the rationale behind my proposed amendment to delete the language about attire mandates applying to guests. I move the amendment.
Senator Coleman moves the amendment LC 002239/7. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Goodwin, Senator McCaffrey, Senator DeMario, Senator Acosta, Senator Lombardi, Senator Coleman, Senator Mack, Senator Sosnowski, Senator Anderson, Senator Mendes, Senator Burke, Senator Bell, Senator Murray, Senator Oyer, Senator Palmer, Senator 70, Senator Valverde, Senator Corcoran, Senator Cano, Senator Picard, Senator Lawson, Senator Palmer, Senator Archibald. Discussion on the amendment. Hearing none, the clerk will please unlock the machine. Have all members registered their vote? Clerk will please lock the machine. There are 33 votes in the affirmative, none in the negative, and the amendment passes. We are on the act as amended. Senator Costa.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move an amendment, LC 002239-6. I want to start by thanking my colleague, Senator Coleman, for the amendment that she just proposed. I do not think it goes far enough, and I will explain why in my remarks on this proposal. This and several other amendments that will be laid out today are the product of a collaboration with some incumbent senior members of this body and some fellow freshman members, such as myself. It was our intent to propose amendments that would make the space more democratic. As I had mentioned in the Judiciary Committee last week, I believe that democracy is not a categorical variable. An institution or a nation state is not democratic or not. It is more or less democratic across a variety of dimensions. The dimension that I want to speak to on this particular amendment is inclusion. The use of norms and rules on attire in practice only serves to exclude. In the domestic context, it has been most closely associated with sexist policies policing what women can wear in general assemblies across our country. In the international context, it is closely associated with the struggle between formerly colonized people and their settler colonists, as made most clear by the Maori struggle with the New Zealand government over ties. Now, I understand that the current version of the rules does not mention ties, and I can appreciate that, but when I submitted the rules for consideration by the chairman and the leadership, I did so despite many of the concerns from my peers who said this is an uphill battle, this is a non-starter, there is no way they're going to consider any of these things, even if they do make the space more democratic. And I thought to myself, well, I've been here for 3 months now. After our first full session on the floor, I have not worn a collared shirt or a jacket, and there has been no problem. So as far as I can see, what I am wearing has not offended anybody. Nobody has brought it up. Nobody has mentioned it. And so if this space were to consider some reforms, some adjustments to this institution, then what better way than to propose simply striking a section that historically has been sexist, in other contexts racist and classist, and that frankly just hadn't been enforced recently. And so I did that as a test to see if the institution was malleable or resistant to change. And what I've found is that it struck a chord amongst my peers in the committee, members in this body, and even the general public, none of whom had mentioned dress at all before I proposed removing this rule. Now, it could be that this is about power and conservative nature of institutions. I don't mean conservative as in conservative liberal, I mean conservative as in preserving something just because it is, or that is how it has always been done. But I think it's also struck the nerve of forcing us to interrogate where we get our values and norms from. See, I tried to not be presumptuous and do this through a deliberative conversation. But it seems to be the case that most people assumed that if we remove this rule, the floodgates would be open and people would be in here in all sorts of different dress. In fact, some of the hate mail I received alluded to that. They said I would be in here showing my drawers or dressed completely inappropriately, whatever that means. But I think the part of this that is really relevant for what we represent is how closely the advocates for these norms connected this to the judiciary system and courts. You see, a lot of my colleagues here are lawyers, and many folks said, even defendants dress up when they sit in court because they know that a judge and a jury will be judging whether or not they committed a crime based on how they're dressed. And that worried me because I find it super problematic that we accept it almost as universal, that it is okay to judge people based on how they look. Now, there's a difference between acknowledging how the world works and codifying it in our own institution. We know that people every day are judged based on how they look. That is a fact. It is a social fact that we have data to prove with. That does not mean we have to stamp that and approve it. especially when it's one of our own sister institutions that we know and have many stood by that as an okay, almost universal truth. It is okay to judge people in courts based on how they dress. It is okay to tell people that they cannot participate in the General Assembly based on how they dress. Now, we have a choice. We can strike this. It's archaic. I didn't show up here looking like a clown. Nobody was offended before I brought this up. Or we can codify it, dig our heels in, and prove to the world that we're exactly the hypocrites that we claim not to be in American society. We're constantly telling our kids it's about how hard you work, it's about who you are on the inside. And yet we acknowledge that we live in a world where we're constantly judged based on how we look. Why would we codify that here? Why is that necessary? Whose sensibilities are being insulted? And if it bothers you and makes you uncomfortable to wonder where these things come from, then let's start getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And with that, I move passage.
Senator Costa moves passage of the amendment LC 002239/6. Is there a second? Second by Senator Bell, Senator Corkin, Senator Anderson, Senator Mendes, Senator Coleman, Senator Mack, Senator Valverde. On the amendment, Senator Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I'm going to try and make this simple. I'm a common sense type of person. One of the most difficult things that I had to do when I got elected to the Senate, and I was quoted in the Observer, was to trade my Chippewas in for dress shoes. And along with that came suits. I've never owned suits. I never did until I got elected to this position. Me and my wife went out, secondhand shops. I didn't buy new suits. We bought them all secondhand, and I still wear them to this day. But the reason I did it is for different reasons than Mr. Acosta mentioned. I do it out of the respect for the institution. It's not about equity. It's not about disenfranchising anybody. It simply, to me, comes down to respect to the institution. And I'm going to hold that, and I don't think we should change these rules because sometimes you have to force respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Rogers. Senator Mendes.
So a moment ago, we just heard very long poetic speech from me regarding Puerto Rico, and we all acknowledged to recognize the island. I don't know if you caught a paragraph in my speech, probably because I kind of messed it up a little bit, but I asked us to recognize that many of us serve as free interpreters. I'm going to do it for you right now, an interpreter. I said, even now, even here, even today, I meant this chamber when I said that, by the way, to explain that when powerful men dictate decorum and make demands over our bodies and our dress, it translates to the truth of an incomplete emancipation. It is colonization language. We know it when we see it. I'm translating it for you right now so we can either revoke our previous vote that we recognize the harms that were done, or we can perpetuate it. But that's what this vote does.
Thank you, Senator Mendes. Senator Bell. Not on the amendment. Senator Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of this amendment. And for me, it's just simply sort of the definition of respect. I think it's sort of evolved into...
Senator, I don't know if your microphone is on.
It's not on. I'm so sorry.
Now is it on? Okay, I'll try again. Thank you. I rise in support of this amendment, and I was just saying that the definition of respect, I think, has sort of morphed into a little bit of an idea of control and conformity. And I simply just want to offer a definition of respect and what it means to me. The noun, respect, due regard for the feelings, wishes, rights, or traditions of others. As a verb, admire someone or something deeply as a result of their abilities, qualities, or achievements. In that, it says nothing about how we look and how we present ourselves physically. And I think it's really important to try and separate these because it's all about what we're doing and how we treat each other. So it's just simple for me, and I do support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Anderson. Senator Lombardi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I had not intended on speaking on this issue. However, I must admit that I was a little bit taken aback when I saw the amendment to the rules that dealt with attire of members of this legislature. I questioned first and foremost why we had redacted the section that had talked about attire completely and then put this under the section of decorum. However, I urge my clients, I'm sorry. We've been working very hard lately. I urge my colleagues not to accept and to reject this amendment for a more important reason. If you read the amendment as a whole, it indicates, and I quote, "The President of the Senate shall preserve decorum and order in the chamber," is seeking to abolish that portion of the rule in addition to the attire aspect. And I think that every area, and I don't think that that's a system of tradition or conservative behavior or however you want to describe things that happen, every body must have an individual who preserves decorum in its body. Without it, there would be chaos, as we used to say in college. And so, whether we agree or disagree with the presiding officer, it is the presiding officer historically who must maintain decorum in this building. Whether that decorum rises to the level of a collared shirt or not isn't for me to decide. What it is to decide, though, if one of us becomes disruptive, if one of us becomes disrespectful, if one of us uses vulgar language, any number of things, if one of us does not abide by the time limits that we have when we vote. There is any number of things that we can, infractions that we may take. You need someone in the Senate to preside over that and to maintain decorum. So for the reason that this floor amendment seeks to eliminate the presiding officer's ability to maintain decorum in general, I would suggest that's a very dangerous amendment, and I would urge everyone to reject it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Lombardi. Senator Corcoran.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in strong support of this amendment. When I looked at the rules, I actually looked at the rule that was being deleted and this new one was being put in place. And it basically says, all persons on the floor of the Senate, while the Senate is in session, shall be properly dressed, does not say what types of clothing that is, and the presiding officer shall enforce the rule by appropriate means. So I'm not really sure what the purpose of this amendment is. We had a perfectly good line in our current rules. I can't say it better than Senator Acosta already did in regards to what this means to certain members of our community. And I just want to say, like, I worked in the IT field, and we did not have to dress in business attire because it was more important that employees were comfortable and were able to do their work and do it well than what they look like and what they were wearing. I also want to say, you know, I come here in a dress-down blouse, but if I was wearing a Mr. Bungle t-shirt, look it up, good band, I could still do my work and do it well. So I am in strong support of this, and I hope you will all agree to it and pass it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Corkin. Senator Anderson, your light is lit. Do you want to speak again? Senator Lombardi, same thing. Your light is lit. Do you want? Senator Mack.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also did not plan on speaking on this, and I just went back to Section 10 on decorum. And there are still rules that will, and there is still wording in the rules that will still have quote-unquote decorum preserved so that no member of this General Assembly can use profane language, insulting, or abusive language, and that we are also remaining orderly and conducted during the Senate section. It is also not lost on me that respectability politics is often something that is used to control Black and brown bodies and female bodies, especially. I was a teacher in high school and high schools in New Bedford, and my first couple months of school, I came in dressed as a teacher. I was 22 years old, fresh out of college, and came dressed in what I thought every teacher should be dressed in. I did not command the respect of my class, of my students, of my class, and I wasn't able to build a rapport with my students because I wasn't being authentic to what it meant to lead, and lead by example, and lead by being authentically myself, even in the way that I dressed. That did not mean I came into school with short shorts or crop tops. It meant that I relaxed some of the ways in which I dressed. My top button was no longer buttoned. I didn't have to wear stuffy pantsuits, and I was able to relate more to the young people who I was teaching and who I was in charge of. And I was better able to build a better relationship with my young people. Being one of the first Black queer women to stand in this office, I think it is important that we not only show folks the representation that they deserve to see in the diverse body that's here, but also diversity in how we present ourselves authentically as young millennials who are changing the way in which the world works, which no longer means that we have to have power pantsuits in order to be respected by our general body, but we can wear things that empower us and empower folks in our communities to then engage in civic engagement in ways that are welcoming and honor the fact that we want every single person in Rhode Island to feel comfortable and welcome in the State House, including the members of the body here. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Mack. Senator Coleman. Senator Palmer.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the Senate. In the Rules Committee we had a week ago, we had a vigorous debate, I'll say a lively debate on this topic. I want to thank Senator Acosta for bringing it forward. There were many discussions and viewpoints brought to the table on this topic. We are currently operating under interim rules of the Senate. So until the Senate passes these rules, whatever set of rules we pass, we will then have official rules for the session that we're in today, a year today, this session that's in 2021 and 2022. So those are the interim rules. Once we pass these, we'll have official rules. It's not about judging any of us. It's not about judging me or the way I look, or the way anyone else looks for that matter, based on their dress. For the members of the Senate who are not, you're unfortunate that you're not members of the Senate Rules, Government Ethics and Oversight. You wish you were members of that committee. And I won't enumerate all 23, but in doing some research, Mr. President, on the, via NCSL, legislative bodies across the country, and I'm not going to enumerate and read all 23, but there's at least 23 states across the United States, both houses and Senate, that in fact have a, I'll say, dress code or proper attire, whatever words you choose to use. We're not unique in that regard. We are not an outlier in that regard. Some are very specific. Some indicate what you can and can't wear. To that distinct point, ours is very broad with regards to what's in the rules that we have before us. At the end of the day, we respect each other. The dress code and decorum are about respecting an institution that's 200 plus years old. With that, Mr. President, I recommend my fellow senators to not support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Corkin for the second time.
Thank you, Mr. President. I did watch the Rules Committee, and I did hear about the 23 states. that did have a dress code. And I'd like to remind everyone that 23 out of 50 is a minority, and the majority of states do not have a dress code. So I hope that we can be one of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Corcoran. Senator Mendes for the second time.
Yeah, I just wanted to also address the fact of what Senator DePalma mentioned regarding the fact that these are broad rules. Let's really be honest about what we're talking about. These are not broad rules. They're more specific than the prior rules, which were broad. These are more specific, and it is very convenient and interesting to me that in a moment when we have the most diverse body, more women, more people of color, we find, this is me interpreting again, I'm going to explain it one more time about colonization language. This is colonization language. When there's more diversity, more women, more people of color, the need to remind everyone who is in power and what that looks like has traditionally, for hundreds of years, always started with what you do to their bodies, what you tell them to do with their bodies, what you tell them how to dress. That is what it is. So it is not lost on me that the previous language, which was broad, this is more specific. Now, why?
Thank you, Senator Mendes. Senator Casada. Senator Casada would like to be recorded in the affirmative on the previous amendment. It does not affect the outcome. So ordered. Senator Mendes, your light is lit.
I'm good.
Senator DePalma.
Wilson.
Further discussion? Hearing none. Clerk will unlock the machine on the amendment. Have all members recorded their vote? Clerk will lock the machine. There are 7 votes in the affirmative, 28 in the negative, and the amendment fails. Senator Costa.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move an amendment, LC 002239/10 or 10. Mr. President, this amendment changes the language around who should be testifying under oath. Now, it's my understanding from the committee hearing and from conversations with my colleagues that there's been a concern about folks lying in committee hearings in the past, particularly folks who are either government appointees and representing some agencies that we have oversight over, or folks under contract with the state who may be providing misleading information to the committee meetings. And so this amendment that the sub-A includes, that I seek to change, takes a really, really wide approach to a somewhat narrow problem. And I think for that reason, we've had organizations like the ACLU and Common Cause reach out to us and say, hey, look, it could be a real deterrent to public engagement if we make it so that the chair, at their discretion, could force anybody testifying to do so under oath. The recommendation at the time was to say, hey, you have a problem. Let's address that problem by targeting it a little bit more specifically. Now, a colleague of mine on the committee mentioned that an additional problem to how we wrote this was that we said that at the discretion of the chair, making it so that every time that the chair asks somebody to testify under oath, they're invariably going to face the question, why this person? And so what my amendment seeks to do is to say that any invited guest to a committee shall testify under oath. That makes it so that if it's an agency director or representative, if it is somebody representing a company or corporation that the state is doing business with, and a committee invites them, then those folks would need to testify under oath, but not the lay person or lay member of the public who might not really understand that if they don't provide completely accurate information, if they mess up, they could be at risk of perjuring themselves. And so I think this version of the language makes it so that we accomplish both goals. We're able to hold the appropriate parties accountable, but we also don't deter members of the public who don't have a lot of experience engaging with formal offices or the General Assembly from potentially signing up to speak. And with that, I move passage. Thank you.
Senator Costa moves the amendment, LC 002239/10. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Bell, Senator Corcoran, Senator Mendes, Senator Mack. On the amendment, Senator Coyne.
Yes, Mr. President, may I be recorded in the negative on the previous amendment, please?
Senator Coyne would like to be recorded in negative on the previous amendment. It does not affect the outcome. Hearing no objection, so ordered. Senator Bell.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I rise in support of this amendment. I think it's a very good solution to what is a somewhat complicated problem. We need to strike the right balance. Some people who come before us really do need to be sworn in, so we know they're telling the truth. There's a reason why this was put into the rules. But it's a problem when this can be applied to anyone who comes up and testifies in an open session. It can intimidate people. And we need to be an open legislature, one that is not afraid of hearing from our citizens. This balance is similar to the balance struck in the House rules, but there's one difference, and I think it's an important one. And it relates to something that the chairman of our Rules and Government Oversight Committee mentioned during the committee meeting, that it's important that we also include people who might not be a member of state government. And I think that that's true. You know, we've seen cases where we have people invited to come testify from corporations. Sometimes there's a reason and a value in having oversight hearings where we scrutinize corporate interests. I think it's something we should do more of. Often in the U.S. Congress, we invite powerful, congressional committees invite powerful corporate executives to come testify. And some of those hearings are really important. They expose some of the issues involved in American corporate governance. It's a practice that we don't engage in that much here, but it's one I think we should engage in more. And we should be bringing in corporate executives, and we should be putting them under oath to make sure that they tell the truth. Because they're really important issues in corporate governance that we need to be investigating more, and we need to be using our legislative oversight capacity to scrutinize more. So again, I think this is a really well-crafted balance. I'm very proud to support this amendment. It's a complicated issue. It's difficult to thread the needle, but I really think this amendment threads it perfectly.
Bell. Senator Mendes.
I agree with my colleagues that this amendment does strike an important balance. I received a letter from the Rhode Island ACLU, which is known for protecting the rights of all in the Ocean State since 1958. Common Cause of Rhode Island, who has been leading the fight in an open, ethical, and accountable government, and the League of Women Voters of Rhode Island, as a nonpartisan political organization encouraging informed, active participation in government. And here's what they had to say. We believe that requiring members of the public to testify before legislative committees under the threat of criminal sanction will have an inevitable effect of chilling the exercise of First Amendment rights. Some members of the public will understandably be inhibited in speaking before a legislative committee on issues of concern to them, knowing that unless they mark their words extremely carefully They could potentially be accused of perjury and face criminal charges. In addition, the proposed rules gives the committee chair complete discretion in deciding when to require testimony to be taken under oath and which witnesses it is required of. That is a power that can be too easily misused. I agree with the Common Cause of Rhode Island. I agree with the ACLU of Rhode Island. I agree with the League of Women Voters that this bill, unless amended, this amendment right now will help address the vulnerability that leaves us ripe for discrimination. In addition to that, I believe that this amendment is necessary because one of the other things I find really interesting and why this showed up in our rules is we've seen testimony like we've never seen before. Committee members are sitting through hours and hours of testimony from the public who are pouring their hearts and their lives and their stories out. It is not lost on me that once again, a change in our government, change in Rhode Island, a change in people being engaged in their government in a new way, we seek to find creative ways of silencing them.
Senator Palmer. Senator De Palma.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the Senate. We also had a lively debate on this as well at the Rules Committee, and I welcome the input from Senators Acosta, Bell, and Mendes on the topic. Appreciate the nuanced description or restricting it down and saying invited members only. There's a couple challenges with that, and I also want to go back to Rhode Island general law as well. There's an expectation, this is not to scare anybody whatsoever. I think we as committee chairs and the committees I've been on over the years, and that's not important how many years, so I'm not going to say how many years it is, but I think we've seen the various committee chairs who have had, and I've been on committees where we've had 11 hours of testimony one day. We dealt with the pensions back in 2011, I think it was. It was 11 hours in one day. We started at whatever time it was, or 9 hours. It went a long time, and even at the end of that day, we were still respectful to all of those who testify. There's an expectation that everyone who testifies truthfully. That's just a given fact. We don't expect anyone who testifies before any committee to testify untruthfully. So this change to the rules comes about to allow the discretion of the chair to be able to ask a individual who's going to testify under oath. One of the challenges we have with the nuance of a person who is invited, I'm not going to go through any instances, there are many, I think we can go through those after if you like. There are many times where we have invited an individual and then they invite 3 or 4 more to support them in what they're saying. That's a group of invitees, and they might invite even more beyond that. I'm not going to go into what those situations are, but that exists. I'll say technically everybody's invited, but let me also go back to, and I can't access my computer right here, but Rhode Island general law already includes a stipulation that all who testify at a committee of the General Assembly testifying under oath. And there's a repercussions if they don't do that. I had the number here. I will get the number for you shortly. But that, in fact, exists in Rhode Island general law. So some might say, well, why do we have it here? Well, the rules that we have in our rule, Mr. President, members of the Senate, codify how we operate. We can choose to add, augment. Obviously, we cannot contradict what's in Rhode Island general law. But in this case here, we're just reaffirming what's already in Rhode Island general law and allowing it to be at the discretion of the committee chair to allow individuals to testify under oath. And with that, Mr. President, I respectfully request my Senate colleagues to vote this amendment down.
Thank you, Senator Palmer. Further discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, the clerk will please unlock the machine. Have all members registered their vote? Clerk will please lock the machine. There are 10 votes in the affirmative, 27 in the negative, and the amendment fails. Senator Mack.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have an amendment LC 002239/5.
Would you care to elaborate, Senator?
Yes. This amendment would allow every member of the General Assembly or of the Senate chamber to introduce 2 bills per year to the floor for a vote in the full chamber. The associated committee vote, whether or not the committee recommends passage or not, will have no impact on whether or not that bill, 2 bills per senator, will be able to be heard for a full floor vote. And I'm excited to introduce this legislation because we were all elected to represent diverse ideas across our state. We are not guaranteed to agree on everything, but it is our duty as a chamber to open our floor to the diverse thought that we represent across our state. We cannot afford to have bills die or be moderated through a committee that does not represent the full Senate body. Every bill on the floor is a learning experience and an opportunity to highlight the commitments and values to the whole state. The idea is not to agree, but to spark thought and full dialogue and challenge amongst our colleagues and push us all to be better, more thoughtful, and more intentional for all of Rhode Island. And with that, I move passage.
Senator Mack moves passage of LC 002239/5. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Mendes, Senator Anderson, Senator Corcoran, Senator Bell, Senator Acosta. On the amendment, Senator Lombardo. Senator Lombardo would like to change his vote to a nay vote on the last amendment. It does not affect the outcome. Hearing no objection, so ordered. Senator Mendes, your light is lit for a second. Discussion on the amendment. Hearing none, the clerk will please unlock the machine. Those voting for the amendment, hit the green button. Those voting against the amendment, hit the red button. If all members have cast their vote, the clerk will lock the machine. There were 6 votes in the affirmative, 30 in the negative, and the amendment fails. Senator Bell.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I have 2 amendments that I will be offering today, but before that, I was hoping that the chairman might yield to a question.
We are on the act as amended. Senator Bell, does this have to do with the act as amended?
It does. If you would prefer that I ask my question after I give my amendments, I would be more than happy to do that. If that would
please.
We'll do that then.
Thank you.
So the first amendment I would like to move is LC number 002239/8.
Senator Bell offers LC 002239/8. Would you care to elaborate on the amendment, Senator Bell?
Absolutely. So what this amendment does is it makes hold for further study no longer final action on a bill. We've had a lot of discussion. It's something that always comes up every legislative session. Exactly what a motion to hold for further study means. And I'm often sitting in committee and I'm a little bit conflicted because there's a bill that I think is a good bill. And I want to make sure that that bill doesn't die. I want to make sure that we have a chance to vote on that bill. But sometimes bills need amendments. Sometimes it's important that we can wait and we can think about the committee testimony and decide if changes are needed. It doesn't always make sense for us to vote at the first hearing.
makes sense for us to wait, consider testimony. And unfortunately, under the current rules, we often don't have that choice. Sometimes when we vote to hold a bill for further study, it's the last time we ever see a bill. So many great bills I've voted for, or voted to hold, because I thought maybe it would make sense to make a couple of changes. But then we never see them ever again. And what this would do would mean that when we vote to hold for further study, it's a real vote to hold for further study. We're holding it to study it further, but it doesn't take away a sponsor's right to bring a bill back ultimately for a vote if that sponsor so chooses, a voting committee. I think this strikes a good balance. It brings our rules more in line with the rules that we have, that other legislative chambers have. But again, the final thing I want to offer when thinking about this is something that chairs can implement without this change in the rule if they choose to do so, or actually committees can implement it. At some point, if a committee wants to table a bill instead of holding it for further study, we might have the opportunity to offer that motion. I just want to remind everyone that that is an option that we do have in case we want to not vote on a bill right away, but preserve that final action. So I think that this is really important because we really do need final action on a bill. We need that right, and we need the ability to vote to hold a bill without thinking that this is the last time we're going to see it again, without giving up our ability to have an ultimate vote on what the final action on that bill is going to be.
Senator Bell, you move the amendment?
I move the amendment, yes.
Senator Bell moves the amendment, seconded by Senator Corkin, Senator Raptakis, Senator Costa, Senator Mack, Senator Anderson, Senator Mendez. On the amendment, Senator Raptakis. Senator Raptakis withdraws his second on this amendment, and he asked to be recorded in the negative on the previous on the previous amendment. Correct, Senator? Yes. Hearing no objection, so ordered. We are on the amendment. Senator Corkin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I strongly rise in support of this amendment for many reasons. Rule 610 means that a senator cannot ask for a discharge on their bill if it's been considered. And right now, held for further study is considered. So to me, that means that, you may have a good bill that you've been put in, 4 or 5 years. It doesn't really need to change. It's just a matter of having it come back up in committee for a vote. And I think something like that, a senator should be able to request a discharge. I also am in strong support of this because of something I've been seeing lately in a lot of the committees. And that's where we are being asked to hold all of the bills for further study before the testimony has been heard, the actual hearing of the bill has actually happened. And I've objected to this every time it's happened because I don't want to vote on a bill and make it considered before I've actually heard testimony. I would like to hear the testimony of the people who come out and, give their thoughts on the bill, whether it's good or bad. I would like to be able to see the notes maybe from the legal counsel before I vote on something. And the fact that we're doing that before we've even heard the first word of testimony, even from the sponsor, I can't go along with that, especially knowing that that's going to prevent a senator from taking any further action on their bill. So I hope that you will agree with this and strongly support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Corkin. Senator Costa.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Bell, for submitting this. I think that the issue that Senator Mack's amendment and Senator Bell's amendment are trying to get at is the black box that is held for further study. And so, as you guys are probably starting to realize, I'm a big fan of making the implicit explicit. And it's the case that when you hold something for further study, you could be meaning a whole lot of stuff. It could mean this bill needs work. It could mean this isn't the right time, but it might be the right time in 2 weeks. It could mean the sponsor hasn't done what we'd like yet, and so we're going to pressure them into doing something else. Now, that accusation, hard to prove, but we don't know. It could mean the committee doesn't want to be on record taking a position on this issue. And so I understand that what I'm asking us all to do is be accountable. Move away from a system that allows us to hide behind a procedural move that keeps us off the record on issues that are difficult to deal with. That's what this does. And it makes me uncomfortable. I've expressed that to some of the chairs. I've expressed that to some of the leadership. I don't understand what's happening all the time when we hold something for further study. And I think that's on purpose, right? It's on purpose that it's nebulous. It's on purpose that we don't have to be on record to the public taking a clear position on the legislation itself. We can sit there, not vote yes, not vote no, don't even have to speak sometimes because you just have to vote and say yay or nay, and the bill gets held forever. And so if it's not Bell's solution, if it's not Mac's solution to bring it to the floor and have a real vote, I encourage my colleagues, please, talk to me about how we get out of this situation where we hide behind procedure. That's not what I'm here for. Calle 13 ser, me puedes ver por dentro con solo mirarme de frente. I always present how I feel about stuff, what my opinions are, and I'm willing to be held accountable for it. That's why I stepped into this office. But it's often the case that this, like a lot of procedural moves, allows us to hide. And I think that's wrong. That's not what we're here for. So I support this amendment. If it's not what your cup of tea is, please, I look forward to talking about alternatives. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Senator Costa. Senator Bell.
No, not on the amendment. I just have
Senator Palmer. I'm sorry, Senator Archibald.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I have an entirely different perspective on held for further study, and let me share it with you. Being in my 5th term up here, my 9th year, I think by this point I'm just learning how to be a senator, how to be effective at legislating. And I say that based upon the fact that there are so many moving parts to any piece of legislation up here that sometimes it's hard to see the big picture. So when bills come before the committee for the first time, my lens doesn't see when I hear, my perspective isn't when I hear held for further study, that bill's going to die. My perspective is, wow, I've got some work to do. What are the issues that I have to overcome? Why is that bill held? Is there a competing interest that I need to go meet with and have discussions with and try to assuage their anxieties and concerns and find some common ground? I don't see it as Big Brother telling me I'm not getting my legislation. I see it as a process in which I have to work in order to achieve a result that ultimately, very often, like the great book by Eric Redmond that I read in my undergrad in D.C. at American University 30-something years ago, The Dance of Legislation, very often isn't what it started as. It's entirely different. And in the end, maybe I'm not super happy about the bill, but I can live with it. I can live with the art of compromise. And sometimes the bill very often won't make it through that process. And that's because in the competing interests that we have as a society in representing all facets of our populace, irrespective of race, creed, religion, and representing those interests honestly and equitably, bills will fail. And that's okay, because if a bill fails, that means that there's another day. You come back. Sometimes they fail for very simple reasons. Sometimes they fail for profound reasons. And I wasn't going to get up here, but when I hear all this, and respectfully, it's good that we have debate, but when I hear all this, I'm going to say drama about why hold for further study is such a bad thing, I'm lost. Because every year that I come up here, I work within that process to achieve results. And sometimes, you know, you're really up against great odds. And there's a challenge to trying to overcome the differences and to meet that common ground. And it's not easy. And as I said, I started by saying 9 years, and I'm just becoming, I think, experienced enough to say I really understand what I'm doing. Because the first year, I didn't have a clue. And that's not meant as a slight at anybody other than myself. It took some years to start to understand it, Mr. President. So I'm okay with hold for further study, because bills don't die when they're held for further study. They're in a holding pattern. I want to say one more thing that really, really has bothered me in recent committee hearings, and I'm going to get this off my chest. In Judiciary and Environmental just recently, 2 committees I sit on, we held every bill for further study. A couple of bills I really liked, thought they were great, almost there. Even made some phone calls before the committee hearing with some of the leaders in those respective areas to get their thoughts and all. Suddenly we get these callers calling in about a minute and a half into the conversation. And you've held it for further study. If you don't vote for this bill, we know where you live. We're coming to your house. What? What kind of an outrageous, preposterous thing is that to say? That you're going to get up there and stick your finger in a member of the committee's eye because they don't vote for that bill as it is. So, I wanted to be diplomatic. I said, Madam Chair, you know, we hold bills for further study because they need to be worked out. And everything I just said to you, tried to condense it, right? Fell on deaf ears, person after person after person. So, leads me to wonder in the coming couple of months, are we going to see this over and over again, all these calls about, you know, you're holding bills for further study, therefore you're voting against it. What is that? It's not true. It's not accurate. And so I say that, again, that holding for further study is not a bad thing. It's a process. You can work in it. You can get your bills. You know, rise above all this and try to work as a legislator. Become good at what you got elected to do up here. It's all this naysaying that drives me crazy sometimes. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Archibald. Senator Corkin, I believe for the second time.
Thank you, Mr. President. I hadn't planned on getting up again, but I feel I need to. I feel like when I hear certain things being said here, outside of this chamber, I feel like I'm being gaslighted about what held for further study is. This amendment doesn't say we can't hold for further study. There's lots of things that I think should be held for further study. What it's saying is that it shouldn't be in the list of actions that are considered. That's it. So that a senator can do something on the bill. Held for further study is for when you need to potentially look at it, talk to people. But it's also something that is used to prevent a bill from certain legislators to go through. And if we say it's not, you're fooling yourself, because obviously there are good bills that are put in by everyone here. We're all trying to do the work of people of Rhode Island. But we know that certain bills are not going to go through. They're going to get held for further study, and then we'll never hear from them again. And if you say that that doesn't happen, I don't know what to say. But at least removing it as a considered bill will give the senator a chance to do something about it. And I think we all deserve that right. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Corkin. Chairman Miller.
I think the intent of this legislation is it's to be admired, but I think how it would actually function in committee, especially under pandemic, has to be recognized. And one of the comments I wanted to comment on specifically is the idea of how and why we might hold a calendar of bills before we hear testimony. And I'll give some examples. I've not only seen it in health, I've seen it in environment, I've seen it as I've listened in or watched judiciary. When we have 100 people due to pandemic conditions calling in, sometimes more than 100, I think we had 120 people call in the other night in health. To my best recollection, before the pandemic conditions under which we held hearings, I never went through that procedure of holding the calendar as a motion before we heard testimony. But consider when we have 120 people signed up for a bill, and some of them are signed up for several bills. Technically and logistically, the chances of getting through that process with people calling in under the current conditions seems virtually impossible. If I was not to hold the calendar to start the meeting, I would have to go back sometimes 5 or 6 times to the same person and try to reconnect them with the call. Just logistically and technically would not work. I can tell you that me personally, and I know this to be true for other chairs, I hold a bill out of respect for that bill. If that bill needs to be fixed in order to be taken seriously by the House and by the governor so it doesn't get vetoed, I have work to do as a chair, and the sponsor of the bill has work to do as a sponsor of the bill. Therefore, I don't think this technically fixes either of those issues, and it could potentially, under the context, but maybe not the intent that it's brought up based on the comments, could be detrimental to how we move forward this session.
Thank you, Chairman Miller. Senator Mendes.
Yeah, I rise to support this piece of this amendment. I want to kind of respond to an important thing that is not being talked about. I heard from some constituents who had spent hours waiting, to testify, and felt like they had the wind knocked out of them because they could not believe many people for the first time this year are ever testifying, because we found a creative way in this pandemic to make things accessible for them. But in that process, people were dismayed, surprised, shocked, bewildered, and insulted because bills were held for further study before they ever got to testify. And they had never seen that happen before. And to my colleague, Chairman Miller, maybe that's because it didn't happen before. Again, I find this kind of convenient, and I do not think the fact that it's laborious to do so is a good excuse to do so. So if the process to allow people to be heard before we make an action on a bill, our obligation is to the people, and so making things easier for us is not a priority. It shouldn't factor, it's not a thing. The second thing is, my colleague before, Senator Archambault, did mention about people waving fingers in their faces. And, we actually are quite protected and are hearing testimony behind screens in the comfort of our own home. And I have never actually had anybody put their finger in my face. However, the reason why I'm actually in this chamber is because 2 years ago, I was so infuriated because I testified in front of the Judiciary Committee 2 years ago and had fingers waved in my face as a constituent about the power grab that was the Senate rules then. I had the nerve to speak up in Judiciary Committee and had the chair at the time and my colleague, Senator Archambault, get red in the face and wave their finger at me, and I thought, yeah, I think I'm going to run. So we can continue to dig our heels in and ignore the people and then fuel them to demand a government that listens to them and doesn't dismiss them, or we can keep doing this.
Thanks, Senator Mendes. Senator Corkin, you have already spoken twice. Senator Bell.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. And I've listened very closely to the comments and suggestions from Senator from Smithfield and our Health and Human Services Chairman. And I think I want to return us to what this amendment actually does. This amendment would make held for further study work the way it's been described. It's not abolishing held for further study. It doesn't get rid of this motion. And the arguments presented for why we need this kind of option, those arguments make sense. Sometimes you do need an option to not vote on a bill the first hearing, so you have time to consider testimony. That makes sense. Nothing in this amendment would change that. What this amendment would do is, in fact, strengthen that argument. It would clarify that a vote to hold for further study is not a vote on a bill. It is not final action on that bill. And so we would be able to say with a clear conscience that when we vote to hold for further study, we're not voting on that bill. Right now, because it is final action, a vote to hold for further study kind of is a vote on a bill. This would clear that up. It would make the motion to hold for further study work the way we want it to work. And the final suggestion I have, I understand the difficulty that our HHS chairman brought up, that sometimes when you have a lot of people testifying, there can be times when you don't want to have to hold that motion at the end. And actually, I think in our rules, we're not compelled to hold a vote on every bill we hear. I think actually we have a procedural option, if we don't make this amendment. We do actually have a procedural option we can think about. Sometimes we think really strongly that we don't want to have a vote on a particular bill at the end. We just don't have to vote on it. We can just hold it and just have a hearing. So again, I want to return us to what this does. This really doesn't abolish hold for further study. Doesn't get rid of any of the reasons to have this motion. All it does is it makes it work as we want it to work, so that it is not a vote on a bill. So none of us will ever have to defend, why did you vote against this bill when all you did was just vote to hold it. So that's why I think this is a really good compromise. I think it strengthens the motion, it doesn't abolish it.
Thank you, Senator Bell. Chairwoman Gallo. Senator Palmer.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. Just a couple things with regards to the amendment we have before us. There are times when a motion to hold for further study is done because I've been at many hearings, others probably have as well, where you lose a quorum. Once you lose a quorum, you can't vote. You're not allowed to vote once that quorum ceases to exist, and we've seen that over the years. I've seen that in finance overtimes and other various committees that we've had extensive hearings on, because committee members need to come and go for a variety of reasons, and you potentially will lose that quorum. So that measure needs to be there. We do need to take an action on legislation when it's brought forward. And just about every bill. I might like to think all the bills I've ever submitted, including all this year, are perfect. They're not. None of them are. None of them ever are. And they do require work. So the ability and we do need to have committees take action on bills. The rules we have before us allow us to do that. I respectfully request my Senate colleagues to vote down this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Palmer. Senator Bell, your light is lit. Further discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, the clerk will please unlock the machine. All those voting for the amendment, vote in the green. Those voting against the amendment, vote in the red. If all members have recorded their vote, the clerk will lock the machine. There are 6 votes in the affirmative, 31 in the negative, and the amendment fails. Senator Bell?
Yes, I'd like to offer my second amendment at this time.
Please proceed, Senator.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I move LC 002239/9.
Senator Bell offers LC 002239/9. Would you care to elaborate on the contents of the amendment, Senator?
I would indeed, Mr. President.
Please proceed.
What this amendment does is very simple. It makes a motion to appeal the ruling of the chair debatable. Oftentimes, when we have a motion to appeal the ruling of the chair, it comes on a point of parliamentary procedure that can be a bit obscure. A lot of us, I can tell you, I don't have all of Mason's rules memorized. I don't have all of our rules memorized word for word. Sometimes if a particular point of procedure comes up, you got to go look it up. You got to think about what the language means. And you also have to understand, sometimes when you have a vote and you can't hear why, and we don't have debate on what that vote is, then how are we supposed to know what we're voting on? If we have a debate on a contentious point of parliamentary procedure, then that gives us the opportunity to understand what we're voting on. A vote on parliamentary procedure can mean whether a bill lives or dies. It can have great importance. It can mean whether an amendment moves forward. It can mean whether an amendment is struck down. It can have major public policy consequences. And something of that importance deserves the right to be debated. And that's why, under Mason's rules and the rules of the vast majority of state legislatures, it is a debatable motion. The other reason to make it debatable is if the rules are broken, then it's really important that we get to say that. Because one of the procedures that exists is what is known as the nuclear option, which is where you just don't follow the rules, and it just gets approved because under our Constitution, the Senate is the judge of its own rules. We have a motion to appeal the ruling of the chair. The motion is struck down. This happened here, of course, when we abolished the talking filibuster. In the middle of a speech I gave on rules 2 years ago, we were debating the abolition of the filibuster. It was interrupted, and a motion was made from a point of order, despite my right to the floor. It was struck down because appealed the ruling of the chair, and the Senate voted against that appeal. But we didn't get an opportunity to debate that, and that bothered me. Because I thought it was important to explain the right to the floor, which is a somewhat obscure point of Senate rules. I think a lot of senators who voted on that didn't understand didn't understand exactly why I was objecting to the motion being made from a point of order. How I felt that undermined the right to the floor. It was a complicated, nuanced thing. And I think sometimes when people voted on it, we didn't have a chance to really flesh that out because we didn't have debate. So I think this is a really important protection. It gives us the opportunity to explain what's going on so people know what's going on. And if it doesn't stop a ruling of the chair from getting upheld, doesn't require that an appeal be sustained, all it does is it says that we have a right to debate an appeal. We have the right to explain why certain senators might feel that the ruling is incorrect. That's all this does. So with that, I'd like to offer this amendment.
Senator Bell offers the amendment. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Corcoran, Senator Acosta, Senator Mack, Senator Mendes, Senator Anderson. Discussion on the amendment. Hearing none, the clerk will please unlock the machine. If all members have recorded their vote, the clerk will lock the machine. There are 7 yeas, 29 nays, and the amendment fails. Senator Bell.
Thank you so much. And at this point, I'd like to go back and ask my question. If the chairman of the Rules and Government Oversight Committee would yield to the question. Thank you so much, Mr.
Senator Palmer says he will yield to a question.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So my question relates to what I think is almost certainly a coincidence. I would be extraordinarily surprised if it were any more than that. But I noticed that the committee vote record for this particular bill in committee was not actually reported on the legislative website. And when I went back to watch the hearing, there was some disagreement about exactly what the record of the committee vote was. And sometimes it can be hard to hear exactly what people say on Cisco WebEx. And at the end of the vote, it wasn't quite clear on what the committee vote was. So what I would like to ask the chairman is whether he could relay for my edification and the edification of the Senate what the committee vote record was on the bill and the motion to amend it, the substitute A motion.
So, Mr. President, I don't recall exactly, but there were 2 nay votes, and I believe there were 6 or 6. Yeah, I don't have it in front of me. I will certainly get that for you in. I can't say how many minutes, but it'll be minutes and not seconds.
Thank you so much. And so part of the reason I bring this up is that pursuant to Rule 6.8, votes that are submitted to the floor are submitted with a record of the committee vote. And I just want to make sure that the committee vote record is preserved. So if we don't have that record actually submitted appropriately, I'm not sure what the right procedural option is, but I do want to make sure it is ultimately recorded. Again, I think it is almost certain that this was not anything intentional, but I do just want to make sure that ultimately it is recorded for the record for posterity so people are able to look that up in the future and know how senators voted in committee.
Senator, we'll check on that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. And with that, I do want to actually speak on the amended rules as is. I think there will be no more amendments. Perhaps not? Oh, well, with that, I'll hold on speaking on the rules as amended. So I believe that Senator Mendes has an amendment.
Senator Mendes.
Thank you, Senate President, and my colleagues for engaging in this important dialogue. I'd like to introduce an amendment LC 002239/11.
Senator, are you offering that amendment?
I
because
am.
it's under Senator Acosta's name?
I am offering it. I signed it.
Okay. All right. The copy I have, it's Senator Acosta, but that's okay if you had signed it.
Thank you, Senate President.
Senator Mendes offers LC 002239/11. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Bell. Senator Acosta. Senator Mack. Senator Corcoran. Senator Anderson. Senator Mendes, would you like to elaborate on the amendment?
Yes, I would. Thank you so much.
Please proceed.
This amendment is really simple. It's on page 11, line 17 through 19. It addresses that section by deleting all language that mentions the following. Members appointed to a committee and replaces it with this language, I'm sorry. Members appointed to a committee shall elect the chair, vice chair, and secretary of their respective committees. This is really a simple amendment, and it is to facilitate a democratic process that we all came here to do. Let's be clear what is happening right now. We just voted down a series of amendments. And what the unintended message is that we don't trust the public to give honest testimony, and even when the Common Cause, ACLU, and League of Women Voters tells us to do otherwise. We don't trust our colleagues to determine culturally appropriate interpretations of decorum, and we do not want to hear testimony from the public before making an action on it and holding it for further study. And we don't want to explain to the public why we hold for further study. So here we are. Do we trust our colleagues? That's the question before us. Even when we do not agree. Clearly today, as we can look on our screen, a lot of us don't agree. But even with that, I am excited to have a committee of diverse minds and diverse perspectives vote our own leadership. I am okay with those perspectives that are different voting on their own chair and their leadership of a committee, because it preserves the integrity of the democratic process. So the question before us now in this vote, this common thread of all the things we do not trust, do we trust our colleagues in a committee to choose the leadership of democracy?
Thank you, Senator Mendes. Senator Costa.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Mendes, for introducing this amendment. As I mentioned in the first amendment that I introduced, it's my intention to try to make any space that I'm in as democratic as possible. I think that we have to balance protocol and efficiency with democracy at times. So I want to be clear that the power to appoint members to committees will still rest in the hands of the Senate President. The leadership will continue to have a say into the composition of the committees themselves. But what this amendment would do is allow those members to appoint their chair, their vice chair, their secretary. And as I look around this room, I notice that it is on average the younger folks who are speaking on behalf of the amendments that move us closer to democratization, and the more senior folks who are speaking in favor of conserving the institution as it rests right now. And the reason why I find that concerning is because our legacies will be dictated by the types of decisions we make and whether or not we move towards democratization or de-democratization. Don't plan for when you're in power. Plan for when you're not. And so what this does is it democratizes the space for everybody. It decentralizes the power for everybody. We have had democratic control of this chamber for a long, long time. And I think that often leads us to take that for granted. I don't want to hold that too tight. I think it's corrosive. And I don't take any issue with our current leadership or the previous leadership. This is the type of institution that we inherited. But we also have a choice. We have a choice to make it more democratic or to perpetuate the system that we inherited. Now, I choose the former. And I hope that my colleagues, or at least some of them, will join me. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Senator Costa. Senator Mack.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also did not plan on speaking on this, but as we've heard today, there are a lot of amendments proposed by some of the newer members of the chamber, and it is not because we want to start infighting. It's because we want to start provoking conversation about what will actually bring this chamber and a greater consensus amongst our colleagues. And the pandemic has not made that easy to talk and be able to debate in the ways that we would hope to. But I trust the best intent of all of the proposed amendments and of the rules as they stand. And I think change is hard. Octavia Butler says that God is change, and that's the only constant. And I think change would do this chamber good. in order to see how we can work more efficiently during a pandemic and during times when there are significantly more barriers to being in collaboration with our fellow colleagues. To welcome more chances and more ways that we can collaborate and engage in democracy that is authentic and that is welcoming to all folks and their ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Mack. Senator Archibald.
Thank you. I wasn't going to rise to speak, but I feel compelled to. And before I do, I just want to be clear to Senator Mendes that my use of that finger in the eye was a metaphor, wasn't made to be taken literally. If you took it literally and were inspired, God bless you. Let me talk on this for a minute. To say that it's anything other than what it is to be a charlatan. You want to take the authority to decide how these committees are structured away from the Senate President, where that's been since before many of us in this chamber, if not all of us, were born. So if you're going to get up here and put something forth like the current amendment, I'd say, because you're advocating sincerely, say what you really think. Because to say that it's based upon some measure of age in the room, right? Or the older people, respectfully, Senator Costa being, the conformist here. Again, I'm lost, okay? I wear a suit and tie 5 days a week in court. And on the weekends, I'm in a farmer's coat, unshaved, work boots, baseball hat. You wouldn't even recognize me. One of my proudest moments was in kindergarten when Mrs. Buchanowski said everybody used a big red pencil and I used orange crayons. And I found myself in the corner.
Point of order.
State your point of order, Senator Corkin.
Can my colleague, Senator Archibald, stick to the merits of the amendment, please?
I sure will.
Please do, Senator. Thank you.
Appreciate the point of order. So to say that this is anything other than what it is, which is to try to take away and change the way things are currently done, is not sincere. It is what it is. You don't like the current structure that you haven't even operated in for more than 5 minutes, and you want to change it because you got this bright new path of how things should be done. I'm not with it. The way things are right now, they work very well. It doesn't have to do with age, race, creed, religion. That's nothing more than an absolute red herring.
Thank you, Senator Archibald. Senator Mack, your light is lit. Okay. Senator Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I do rise in favor of this. And excuse me, I think that it's not trying to take away power from the president. There is definitely a lot of power in that position, but it's spreading it out and in a democratic way so that within committees, they can operate democratically as well. So I would just rise in opposition of that statement that I don't think anyone wants to take away all the powers of the presidency. Just, it would be wonderful to spread it around a little more and create a little more of a democratic system. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Anderson. Senator Bell.
Thank you so much. I rise in support of this amendment. I think it's important that we be a more democratic chamber. And that means that our leadership positions should be elected democratically by the membership. I don't expect this to be a fundamental change. I think in general, the leadership has a majority on every committee. And senators typically vote along with the leadership. I would be surprised if there would be an instance in which we'd elect a chairperson different from the leadership, unless there were a really good reason. So this is unlikely to change things in terms of the assignments, except in extreme cases. Cases where people feel so compelled that we need a different chairperson that they might go against the leadership. That's pretty rare in this chamber. So I think it would only be exercised in cases where it is truly necessary. And one thing I've been thinking about this amendment, and it's a little bit complicated, and I'm wondering how it interfaces with another question in the rules I've never quite understood. And part of the issue that I've never quite understood, it came from something that the president mentioned in committee when the president discussed the number of times, instances in which a senator's committee assignment has been changed. And one of those times was clear to me and involved an incident that I don't think we want to discuss here. But a different one involved a senator who was a committee chairperson who had been removed because that senator was not the person that had been supported or wasn't the choice of the new incoming leadership team. We had a leadership transition. And that kind of makes sense to me. I understand why a new leadership would want to bring in new committee chair leaderships. I'm not saying that that is completely unreasonable. It makes sense to me that when we have that transition, we could have a new election or we could change something when it happens in the middle of a term. But one of the things that got me thinking about is exactly what is the rule that governs the change in a committee officer assignment? Is it a change in committee assignment or is it a committee position? And would this amendment therefore make it so that someone would be elected? It might give us a mechanism to justify a change in committee leadership. I'm interested in thinking about how this would change something that is an issue that we do often come up. So I'm wondering if the parliamentarian, I have a point of parliamentary inquiry for the parliamentarian, if he would interpret how he thinks this would affect the reassignment of a committee leadership position. In the parliamentarian's opinion, would this amendment grant it to the membership to change a committee officer assignment in the middle of a term? Or would it still be the Senate President's discretion to change it as a committee assignment under the Senate President's authority to change a committee assignment for cause? How would that happen? And would this amendment make it so that it's therefore elected by the committee? It would be a committee election to change it or change in the Senate President's assignment?
Now, Senator Bell, as far as the participation of the parliamentarian, he rules on certain things. He is not out here to provide information and distribute information. His basic job is to rule on questions of parliamentary procedure. So he is not subject to any kind of discussion from the body through him.
I thought it was the Senate President who rules on questions of parliamentary procedure as the presiding officer. I thought the parliamentarian's role was on questions of parliamentary inquiry, simply questions about it. But I thought it was the Senate President who has the authority to rule. And I'm actually pretty sure that our rules give that power to the Senate President to rule on issues of parliamentary procedure.
From what I understand, he can address your question at a later time and not in a public forum. That's unless there is a ruling that comes from him on a question of parliamentary procedure. That's my understanding.
Okay, I thought we had a right to make a motion of parliamentary inquiry to the parliamentarian granted in Mason's rules. But, I just wanted to clarify that issue. I thought we had that right. But if we don't, I understand that. I just think it's a useful right so that therefore we can understand the procedure and know what to do. Because the ability to ask a question on matters of procedure is really important. That way we can understand procedurally what to do. I think it's actually a really useful right, and it would be sad if we didn't have it. Because then, you do what you think, and if you're wrong, you might get slapped down. It creates, I think, unnecessary conflict to not have the ability to ask a question of parliamentary procedure to the parliamentarian. But if we don't want to allow that, I'm not going to force it.
Thank you, Senator Bell. Senator Anderson? Nope. Senator Mendes? We are still on the amendment.
We are. Thank you, Senate President. Two years ago, the Providence Journal had posted a article regarding these very rules, and they called them a power grab. So to Senator Archambault and to other colleagues who have struggled to think that they're fair and good, we just have to understand that dissent is part of the process, debate is part of the process, fragility doesn't help us. And so the ability to have conversations about things that matter to our colleagues, the way that things that matter to our constituents, and the way that they are heard is our job. And unfortunately, if we continue to perpetuate the discouraging of dissent, the discouraging of debate, the fragility around accountability, we will continue to perpetuate the ultimate problem, and that is the lack of trust. We need to be able to facilitate trust from from the state of Rhode Island. They need to be able to trust that we are governing judiciously and keeping each other accountable, and that we're not hoarding power. And so to my colleague, Senator Anderson, I loved her comment around spreading it around and making sure that the power is there for all of us. This bill does that. It's not a big bill. This amendment does that. It's not a big amendment. It just gives my colleagues a chance to decide who can be the chair, who can be the vice chair, and who can be the secretary of a committee, rather than leadership doing that. I trust my colleagues to do that. I trust the state of Rhode Island as we continue to speak out, and so I hope that we can make space to listen to them in a more democratic way. And these amendments did that. Unfortunately, we haven't looked out for them in the way that I believe that we should.
Thank you, Senator Mendes. Senator Palmer.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for all the colleagues who expressed your insight and concern with regards to how the rules are currently written. As we elect the Senate President, that right and privilege comes with that vote that we take. So when we vote for the Senate President then is afforded that opportunity to place folks as they are, as the chair, vice chair, and secretary on the committee. And Mr. President, with that, I recommend my colleagues not pass this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Further discussion, Senator De La Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. President. I can see this is a very passionate debate, and it's going to be a long night. But I would just like to point out that when we classify people by their color, by their gender, by their age, it's never really helpful for debate. And we talk about even the fragility and the sensibilities of the people in this chamber. Everyone is entitled to an opinion. And if you are offended by an opinion, it's never really conducive to use insults. So, although passionate and spirited, I think we should keep it civil.
Thank you, Senator De La Cruz. Further discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, the clerk will please unlock the machine. Have all members recorded their vote? Clerk will lock the machine. There are 9 votes in the affirmative, 28 in the negative, and the amendment fails. We are on the act as amended. Senator Bell.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. So I rise in opposition to the amended version of this act. You know, one of the things I was really hoping for when I started in the Senate was that we were going to be moving forwards on rules reform. I had heard discussion of the anticipated, of the leadership team, from the leadership team, that we were going to be doing rules reform. I was excited about it. My first speech on the leadership, I made a point of commending the leadership on their approach on rules reform. Been disappointed to see us not move in the direction of reform. The first re-amendment of the rules, I felt we moved quite a bit backwards in terms of reforming the rules, in terms of opening up the process and democratizing this chamber. This particular set of rules doesn't move us hugely backwards, but it is a step backwards. And I find that concerning. But for me, what I'm most bothered by is that we're not reforming the rules. We're not doing a truly transformative set of rules that open up the processes in this chamber, that make it a very democratic chamber, that make it function like other state legislative chambers do. I had a conversation with a member in the minority of a legislative chamber in North Dakota. She told me about how she was able to pass so many bills despite the fact that she was in the minority party. One of the reasons was that North Dakota has famously open rules that allow legislators a chance to get votes on their bills, so their bills don't get bottled up. And she was able, even though she was in the minority party, to get the vast majority of her legislation passed. That's what having open rules means. We're not there. But I am hopeful that each year we'll make an incremental step in that direction. And there have been times when legislative chambers have made steps in that direction. This time, this time we are so far from making a major step forwards. And that's what's so sad to me. Each time we amend the rules, we have a chance to move forwards. We have a chance to move in the direction that the people of Rhode Island have been calling for decades, long before any of us were born. And I was hopeful that this year we might see a set of new rules that might move us in that direction, move us towards democracy instead of concentration of power. But those aren't the rules we have. And although I have objections to some of these changes, and on the whole I think they move us backwards, for me, what I'm saddest about is the reforms we're not making, the improvements to process that we're not making. And so with that, I will be voting in opposition to these rules. I do hope that in the future we take an opportunity to re-examine these rules, make important process changes that move us forwards. We have more work to do, and so I cannot support the current rules as is.
Thank you, Senator Bell. Further discussion on the act as amended? Hearing none, the clerk will please unlock the machine. Have all members recorded their vote? Clerk will please lock the machine. There are 30 votes in the affirmative, 6 in the negative, and the act as amended passes. Senator Bell, your light is lit.
Mr. President, could I be voted in the affirmative, please?
Senator Algier requests that he be allowed to vote in the affirmative. That does not change the same request for Senator McCaffrey. That does not change the outcome. So ordered. That concludes today's calendar. We now revert to announcements and introductions. Are there any of either? Chairman Felag.
Thank you, Mr. President. For planning purposes, the Finance Committee will be meeting virtually Thursday at 5 p.m. Your prompt attendance is greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Archibald.
Thank you, Mr. President. For planning purposes, judiciary will be meeting at 4 o'clock on Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Archibald. Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Housing and Municipal Government will be meeting on Thursday at 3:30 p.m. via WebEx.
Thank you, Senator Coleman. Senator Cano.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Education will be meeting tomorrow virtually at 3 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Cano. Senator Murray.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senate Committee on Special Legislation and Veterans Affairs will be meeting tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Thank you, Senator Murray. Senator Burke.
Thank you, Mr. President. Committee on Labor will be meeting tomorrow at 5 o'clock.
Thank you, Senator Burke. Senator Valverde.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Health and Human Services will meet tomorrow at 5 o'clock via WebEx.
Thank you, Senator Valverde. Further announcements and/or introductions? Hearing none. Is there any objection to transmitting adopted resolutions to the Honorable Secretary of State? All matters passed by the Senate to the Honorable House of Representatives, and all matters passed in concurrence to His Excellency the Governor. Hearing none, so ordered. The desk is now clear of business. I call on Senator Goodwin for the purposes of recess.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just would like to remind the members that there is a sandwich to be had on the way out. Please.
Senator, one second, please.
Yes.
Senator, please proceed.
Thank you. I wanted to just indicate to the members that there are sandwiches in their usual spot. Help yourselves on the way out. Mr. President, if there's no further business to come before the Senate, I move that the Senate recess in memory of Chief John Jack Layton.
Senator Goodwin moves that the Senate be in recess in memory of John Jack Layton, seconded by Senator McCaffrey and Senator Algier. All those in favor of recess, please rise. The Senate stands in recess.